Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Saturday. Glasses are crooked. All right, I typed in my headline for today and I said, well, I got a lot of big videos. There is Jay Bear. Welcome. Is this your first time in chat? You're from Boston? Let's get up from Michigan. Um, I been here since 2020 and over 1 million views, and I got a bunch of backup channels, but we got our big one back in a while. Um, so let's be respectful. Thank you. And my time on the weekend is going to be off and on, and during the week it's going to be, what did I say? Uh, I think 2 o'clock during the week. I think from 2 to 6. I think so. All my sports are coming up. Okay, appreciate you coming in. Got a lot of big good stuff going on. And today is No King Day. There's a lot of protesting going on. And then Billy Bean just came out with a 20-minute one. I'm going to play that 2 hour Rumble roundtable with what's his name. But I might do an hour on the first part and save the second hour for later. My Arizona game will be on at 8:45 tonight. So Greg, I go out there. Yep, both my teams are showing it. If they both win, they'll be facing each other next week. So yeah, I'm watching all my sports, taking Chico out. Hopefully the weather will be starting to warm up. So we'll see how many we get in here. So I just found a better video report on Tiger Woods. It's a 10-minute one, but it looks like it's pretty good play. So we'll play that one first. Maria, you made it on time. Good. A lot of good stuff. It's going to be a long Intel day. See how we do today. Hopefully Kay will be in. I text her all the link and everything. Do you have my email, Maria? Gloria, good to see you. Yeah, I wrote on my headline today that hope everybody comes today because we're going to have a lot of good stuff again. I'll be watching my game and taking him out in between my time I got off. Tam and Lucy. And over. Oh, good, you made it. You didn't you say that you were from Ohio? Did you see that river, the dam of your or whatever your lake is? Chico, come here. It's nobody. Now stop. There goes Chico going off. Chico, come on now. You're fine. Chico. Now settle down. Settle down. Oh. All right, I'll get the window. Come on. Come on. Come on. Up, up. Oh. Sit down, relax now. Sit down, buddy. You better behave. Chico, stay up there. Oh. Will you settle down? Be right back. Hey. Ah. Oh. Come on, lay on the couch now. Relax, buddy. All right. Hopefully we'll get Kay in here. Probably ain't go. I'm not sure what he's up to for today. No, you stop it. All right, cool, Kay, you're in. Oh, James O'Keefe is going to have a video on for later. He's already starting up, okay. Whining already. Get up there. Don't give me that look. Come on. You want to go up there or here? I want to start. Is that a hello to Ariella? Huh? So I found a lot of good stuff today, Kay, so. Oh, she has, huh? See what you did, Ariella? Yeah. Come on. Come on. Come up here. I'm going to start. Go lay down. Go lay down now. Go lay down. Yeah, I'm going to play his video later when he's done. It's an upcoming show he's having. There's Carol. Where you been hiding at? You been busy yesterday? Yeah, no, what he wants the window, Paul. Come on, come on, up. Thank you. Come on, come up here. Say hi to everybody. All right, say hi. Huh? And we got dude. Goofy. All right, the first one we're gonna get, of course, Tiger Woods. Where the hell? I just found this channel.
Of Iran's missiles have been destroyed. Tiger Woods is released from jail after being arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. And what we've learned about the relationship between man and their best friend. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, 7 days a week.
Well, Reuters channel, okay. Now I know.
Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis have launched missiles at Israel, opening up a new front as the war with Iran moves into its fifth week. The group has already shown it can strike well beyond Yemen, and by threatening shipping routes like the Bab al-Mandab Strait, it raises the risk that this conflict could spread even further. The Houthis say they'll keep up their operations until what they call aggression across the region comes to an end. Israel, for its part, says it intercepted the missile from Yemen. Elsewhere in the region, a U.S. official confirms that 12 U.S. troops were wounded, 2 seriously, in an Iranian strike on Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. All of that comes as Washington's been trying to put an end date on the fighting. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying on Friday that the U.S. is aiming to finish military operations within weeks.
We are on or ahead of schedule on that operation and expect to conclude it at the appropriate time here, in a matter of weeks, not months.
Meanwhile, a clearer picture of Iran's missile losses is emerging. Reuters has revealed that 1 month into the U.S.-Israeli war, officials say they can only confirm the destruction of about a third of Iran's arsenal, which is far short of President Trump's claim that Tehran is almost out of rockets.
We've decimated them as a military. No Air Force, no Navy, very few rockets left. We blew up so many.
The findings show that Tehran still has a significant missile inventory and may be able to recover some buried or damaged missiles once fighting stops. Reporter Phil Stewart says that suggests that hopes of a quick drawdown may be unfounded.
Iran, for many years, has been preparing for the potential of an Israeli or U.S. attack on it. And so what you're seeing right now is that because of that, U.S. intelligence especially is having a real hard time concluding exactly how much of the Iranian arsenal has been destroyed and is warning, U.S. policymakers that, there's a potential that Iran still has a lot of capability here. And there's a lot of expert analysis out there that shows that Iran is actually preparing for a longer conflict, not just using their missiles, but also using their drones. And don't forget, Iran's drones have been kind of the main driver of U.S. casualties in this conflict, as far as we can tell so far. President Trump is going to have a real tough call about whether or not he's willing to put U.S. forces on the ground in Iran. And from what we can tell, while the planning is continuing to prepare options for him to do just that, he has not made a decision. And some of his public remarks suggest that he may not be willing to make that call and put U.S. troops in that kind of danger. And this kind of information that he'll be getting about the remaining missile capability will certainly be one of the things he has to factor in when he decides whether he's.
When my Bosch fridge keeps my food fresh longer with VitaFresh, I feel like Guy.
Hey Google. Willing to take that risk.
There are moments when you see something and you realize you're looking into a place the world hasn't truly seen in years. And that's how I felt watching this week's special episode of On Assignment. My colleague Ahmed Jadala and his team are the first Reuters journalists to be able to report from Tehran in many, many years.
Last night, there were similar airstrikes by U.S. and Israel in Tehran.
And the footage is honestly deeply moving.
What's your name?
Arisa.
Barisa, what do you do?
Ahmed gives us a rare, unfiltered look inside the city. He takes us into the quiet streets, the bombed-out apartments, rallies, and through all of it, he talks to ordinary people, giving us a glimpse into their lives during wartime.
We have to tell the people the truth. We have to tell the world what's going on exactly.
You won't want to miss this On Assignment special. We'll drop a link in today's pod description. Over in Israel, the country's parliament, the Knesset, is facing a high-stakes vote. It's on the country's annual budget, and if it doesn't pass by Tuesday, it'll force Israel into early elections. Our Jerusalem bureau chief, Rami Ayub, says that could pose a real political challenge for the country's longtime prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu.
So it was long presumed that an Israeli war on Iran would help Netanyahu's fortunes ahead of an election where his entire future is at stake. We've seen sort of the opposite of that happen. Where 4 weeks into this war, there's been no bump for him in the polls. He's sort of unable to plug that gap between translating the popularity of the war itself into popularity and better votes for him in an election. At the beginning of the war, right after the opening U.S.-Israeli strike knocked out the supreme leader, there was a sense in Netanyahu's camp that maybe they would benefit by holding the elections early, and one way to do that would be allowing this state budget not to pass parliament. Now that they haven't really seen a bump in the polls and the war is dragging on without an end, and Netanyahu's stated goal of seeing the regime in Iran being overthrown has not come through, Netanyahu's camp instead thinks that it's better to, bide their time a bit and hold an election in October on the regularly scheduled date.
Tiger Woods has been arrested in Florida on a DUI charge after his SUV rolled over near his home on Jupiter Island. Sheriff's deputies say Woods was speeding as he tried to pass a work truck on a narrow 2-lane road. They say his SUV clipped the truck's trailer and then rolled onto its driver's side. No one was injured in the crash. Deputies say Woods crawled out of the car before officers arrived on the scene.
They did several tests on him. Of course, he did explain the injuries and the surgeries that he had. We did take that into account.
Martin County Sheriff John Budensek tells reporters that Woods showed signs of impairment, but not alcohol. He says Woods blew 000 on a breathalyzer. Investigators say Woods refused a urine test, triggering an additional misdemeanor charge. This is the second time Woods has faced DUI charges, having been arrested in 2017 and later pleading guilty to reckless driving.
The way you see it.
Okay, that was that one. I got a breaking news from last night. There was breaking news on a video.
The suspect now walking back at northwest corner.
This one's 12.
Airship, you got a unit to block northbound traffic south of where the group's at.
Hey, sir, if you could voice that out yourself, I'm trying to keep eyes on your suspect here. I can't keep, I got to keep eyes on him if you want to hook this guy up.
It's affecting all northbound
traffic coming towards this group. I get a description.
Requesting to have all northbound traffic south of where the group is to be blocked off.
Hey guys, that one suspect the officers are talking about next to a black Lincoln Town car walking southbound from that black Lincoln Town car. Male black, black over black, black hat with white writing.
Damn, it's a huge crowd out there, man. I was trying to find where this is at on Citizen. They said somebody was throwing rocks and bottles and at the cops and shit. Oh, is it the protest this weekend? Is that what it is? Oh, they have a protest, no?
To get everybody down.
I don't know what's going on.
Airship, just I see. We got a group of officers that are going to peel off and try to arrest the suspect that was throwing rocks and bottles. If you can keep an eye on him and direct the unit.
I'm trying, sir. And incident commander, I do have officers code 6 on me.
Roger that. You need the line to push?
LA Captain. I was literally about to go to bed. I saw LA Captain post this.
Those units gonna need the line to push up to back them.
Hey, sir, repeat.
Felony Friday.
Airship is IT. You said a couple units are going code 6 with our suspect. Do you need the line to push up?
Okay, that wasn't really nothing major. It looks like it was a minor issue. Okay, what we got? Let's do this 4-minute one here I just found. Four minutes on this one.
Whose tiny turbofan engine puts out less thermal signature than a barbecue grill. 3 seconds of guidance feels like 30. The Sidewinder finds it and busts it open like a pinata. The wingman guns the second, 20 millimeter from 2 miles, because the AIM-9 needs a hotter target than this thing's giving him. Then the third goes down. Meanwhile, 10 miles south and 1 minute behind schedule, the LRASM hasn't thought about any of this. Unlike traditional radar missiles that broadcast their position by sending out pulses, basically shouting, "Here I am," the LRASM stays silent. It listens. Its passive sensors pick up the emissions the target is already producing. Radar, radio, navigation, like hunting someone through a dark house by the sound of their breathing. So when the Bulgari drifts 200 meters from its plot position, the LRASM doesn't care. 200 meters of movement against a 755-foot hull is geometry the weapon was built to solve before breakfast. On the MQ-9 feed, the Bulgari is crawling south, a Force Shaheed rocketing off her deck, still launching drones like a ship from the future as the LRASM closes the final mile. The warhead punches through the forward deck and detonates inside the drone storage bay. The second LRASM catches the waterline amidships 30 seconds later. Single-hull tanker construction, meeting a 1,000-pound warhead, is not a fair fight. It folds like a wet paper bag. 11 degrees of port list inside a minute. The Bulgari will never launch again. But the 6 Shaheed she got off the deck before going under just became somebody else's problem. Bandar Abbas is now a graveyard of burning steel. But 200 miles east along the coast, Iran's flagship is still very much alive, and she's gunning to get into the fight. Konarak Naval Base sits on a shallow harbor on the Gulf of Oman, Iran's Eastern Fleet anchorage, home to the Iranis Jamaran, Iran's flagship. The ship Tehran paraded on state television for a decade, the centerpiece of every naval review, loaded with newer anti-ship missiles and fisrt 27 surface-to-air system that can reach out and ruin a pilot's day at 20 kilometers. On paper, she's Iran's straight-A student, top of the class, scholarship offers, parents bragging at dinner parties. In practice, she's never been in a real fight. Her systems are a generation behind, and she's about to take her first exam against the U.S. Navy. Results pending. The pilot pushing toward Konarak can already see the problem on his radar warning receiver. 2 emitters ringing the harbor, search radars that shouldn't still be active. His seed, suppression of enemy air defenses. Flight was supposed to silence the Zu-23 anti-aircraft guns before this run. Think of Seed as the guys who kick down the door before SWAT goes in, except his door kickers just got sent to a wrong house 60 miles south. Now the Zu-23s are awake, twin-barreled anti-aircraft guns from the Soviet era that spit 1,000 rounds per minute, like a fire hose spraying bullets instead of water. Anything below 8,000 feet is in the splash zone. He has 60 seconds to live with that, because the AGM-84 Slammer hanging under his center line you see here is the one weapon in the Navy's inventory that won't let the pilot leave. In the final 5 miles, its infrared nose camera streams live video to his cockpit display. He steers the impact point with a thumbstick. Surgery from 35 miles away, and he can't leave the table until the cut is finished. 60 seconds of loitering inside the engagement envelope of everything Konarak has on its perimeter. The math is ugly on both ends. Release now and fly 60 seconds of terminal guidance through active AAA. The kind of fire that doesn't need to aim, just fills the sky with steel and waits for you to fly through it, or orbit outside the threat ring and give the Janaran's crew time to reach their Nor launchers and spin up the fisrt 27. American pilots don't flinch. He releases. The Slammer drops, wings deploy, turbojet pushing south at low altitude. He bangs into a racetrack orbit at 22,000 feet, above the Zu-23 ceiling, close enough to hold the data link. Minder screams off the rail.
Okay, that was another good military video. Yep, sorry, Lucy, I sent you that video. I'm gonna play a 5-minute live update there where you live. See how far that is from you. Dang it. This is in Philly, where Lucy lives. There isn't nobody talking on this one, Lucy. I'll see if I find another one, but do you know where that is? Is that... Okay, I was just showing Lucy that post video there. Well, we're going to play George hasn't been out in a while.
Girl, you gotta get therapy.
With Rula, getting help is easier than talking yourself out of it.
Spring, the unofficial new year for tool people. New jobs, new projects with quality.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is For the first time ever, it's been confirmed officially by the Vice President J.D. Vance that Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud. This is interesting timing because the Department of Justice has also begun denaturalization cases, which is just music to my ears. Here's the confirmation from J.D. Vance.
Let's talk about Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz. And obviously, Ilhan Omar, the president and the White House have been out saying she married her brother, that there is immigration fraud going on here. These are deportable.
I have the video of that interview I was going to play, but since George is playing it, we'll play it off George's video.
Naturalization offenses. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so we actually think that Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Stephen Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud? How do you go after her? How do you investigate her? How do you actually do the thing? How do you build the case necessary to get some justice for the American people? There's a related issue, Benny, which is she has been at the center of a lot of the worst fraudsters in the Somalian community. So do I know that Ilhan Omar was aware that the Quality Leering Center was defrauding the American people? I'm not certain of it, but we at least need to investigate it, because if people can commit wrongdoing without even the fear that they're going to be found out, that's a fundamental problem. So I'm worried about the immigration fraud. I'm also worried about what did Ilhan Omar know about what was happening in the Somali community, and why was nobody looking into it until, frankly, Donald Trump came along?
The reason his words are significant here is because J.D. Vance is leading the task force to crack down on fraud across the country. And we're not just talking about monetary fraud. It's going to include immigration fraud as well. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice has begun stripping citizenship from people who commit crimes and fraud on their immigration cases.
Push to strip criminal immigrants of their citizenship. David Spun has this story from Washington. Is it possible?
Well, Dana, it is possible, and it's becoming a much more frequent event to see DOJ officials securing through courts the denaturalization of people who obtained U.S. citizenship through fraud or obtained citizenship by committing other crimes.
A few months ago, I made a video breaking down the categories of fraud that Ilhan Omar could be in big trouble for. And rather than restate what I said then, I'm going to play this clip in its entirety, and it should give you a lot more clarity on, really, in my opinion, how screwed Ilhan is. That's assuming the Trump administration follows through, which they absolutely should. Ilhan Omar and her family and her weird ties, it just needs to go back to Somalia. Go back to Mogadishu, Mogadouchebag. Take a listen. Ilhan Omar's lawyers are probably telling her there's nothing to worry about. There's the statute of limitations. That might be true, but there's one thing they're not thinking about. So a quick rundown: her marriage to Ahmed New Saeed Elmi, her brother, for immigration benefits, to give him a green card and everything like that. That would be a violation of 8 U.S.C. Section 1325, which is the part that deals with immigration marriage fraud, as well as 1546, which deals with visa and immigration document fraud and conspiracy to defraud the United States. The statute of limitations on those crimes is 5 years. The marriage happened in 2009. And the divorce happened in 2017. That's definitely more than 5 years ago. The crime is considered complete when the fraudulent marriage is entered into, or when the immigration benefit is obtained between 2011 and 2012, when he received student aid or status. That 5-year clock expired between 2014 and 2017. The second allegation against Ilhan are her false statements or concealment during her own naturalization process. The same statute, just Part A and B, that statute of limitations is 10 years. She became a citizen in 2000. That 10 years expired in 2010. And any other immigration-related false statements would have happened between 2000 and 2017. Charges of perjury under immigration law, and they also carry a 5-year statute of limitations. The conclusion is all alleged acts are more than 5 to 15 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I love. What is not time barred is civil denaturalization. Under 8 U.S.C. Section 1451, the section dealing with revocations of citizenship obtained by concealment of material fact or willful misrepresentation. What do you see there? None. No statute of limitations whatsoever. That was established in multiple Supreme Court cases. Yes, the Trump administration can file a denaturalization lawsuit at any time, even 25 to 50 years later, if they have clear and convincing evidence that citizenship was illegally procured or procured by fraud. That's absolutely massive, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I mean by Ilhan Omar should be freaking out right now. If the Trump government is exhausting investigative resources looking into her past, any lie she put on her citizenship application is going to haunt her. This is the denaturalization pathway. If any of these stories, which have been reported on for years, are true, she's cooked. Omar allegedly entered a fraudulent marriage before 2000 in Kenya refugee camp or early entry to her first husband, Ahmed Hersi, or another relative misrepresenting marital status or family relationships on her refugee application, adjustment, or naturalization applications. This hid polygamous relationships or sibling ties that violated refugee eligibility. Although Neeta's forged marriage or divorce records from the 1990s, witness affidavits from the Somali community, and inconsistent family timelines in the immigration files. Witness affidavits from the Somali community. Remember, the reason we even know about these stories is because Somalis snitched on Ilhan. This would mean she was ineligible for refugee status due to all that fraud. That's enough grounds for revocation. There's also allegations that Ilhan lied about her family's refugee persecution story in 92 and 95. That would fall under illegal procurement. Also allegations of concealment of criminal or terror ties in her family. There's been a lot of reports that her family is linked to groups like Al-Shabaab, and the implications of that are self-explanatory. If that information was given to immigration officers, she would have never gotten her case granted. And remember, there's no time limit. Civil denaturalization has none. Now that J.D. Vance is saying there's evidence of immigration fraud, the DOJ, if they gather the evidence, can file a denaturalization case. Do I expect it to happen? We'll see. But what a great thing would it be for this country if Ilhan Omar is denaturalized and sent back to Somalia. She's emblematic of everything wrong with the open borders policy. Her and her community pull into the United States wearing their hijabs. They take a neighborhood in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. They fill it with just themselves, refuse to assimilate, learn English, begin to defraud the government at a commercial scale, suck out billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and send it back to Somalia to build mansions. Then they elect Ilhan to Congress to lecture the rest of us what the Constitution was about, how to properly govern. Meanwhile, Somalia doesn't have a functional central government. Wow! In the same interview with Benny Johnson, Vance also revealed that, contrary to popular belief, mass deportations will be ramping up this year.
We wouldn't actually need a SAVE Act if we got rid of all the illegal immigrants in this country, right? There would be no illegal
I would still
voting.
like it, but sure.
Of course. But like, it's like you're trying to put a Band-Aid on like the real problem. And I think the real problem is I don't know, what is the estimate from the White House of how many criminal aliens there are in this nation?
So I think,
and will we ever see mass deportations? There's been some headlines that like perhaps that's not the policy anymore.
No, I mean, I've seen those headlines too. If you look at the number of illegal immigrants that exist in this country, we think there's probably about 3 million lower than it was when we took office about 14 months ago. Now, that's a combination of self-deportations. We're trying to facilitate people who leave voluntarily. That's also, we're arresting more people and deporting them than we have pretty much at any period in the history of the U.S. government. The problem is we did inherit a mess. I mean, when I say 3 million, good news is that's 3 million fewer. My guess is we probably still have 20 million criminal illegal aliens in the United States of America. So there's a lot of work to do. But again, goes back to we've got to keep our foot on the gas pedal. And we also need a Republican Senate and a Republican House that's helping us.
20 million is crazy. Then again, Joe Biden literally opened the border. If there's one thing Republicans need to accomplish, it's this immigration policy. And if you need to pay people to leave, give them all kinds of incentives, I support it. I think it cost the DHS something like $20,000 to facilitate one deportation. That means conducting an operation, going out, picking up the person, bringing them to a detention facility, feeding them while they're there, and then putting them on a flight which needs jet fuel, which isn't cheap, then flying them to a country that may or may not be their country of origin because half the countries in the world have refused to accept their own nationals. None of it is cheap. And if you don't have a flight that's full, that's more money being drained. It's inefficient. So get $10,000 together. Tell them, hey, look, if you leave now, you get $10,000. And the possibility of returning in the future, they'll never return. Unless, of course, the Democrats take power and then open it back up. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the news on Ilhan Omar. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit black-pilled, It's like with her, she just gets away with it, I truly hope the White House is taking this mega serious. If you put this lady in cuffs or on a plane to Somalia, just anything resembling accountability, you restore hope in the system in this country, okay? I will begin to trust the government if Ilhan Omar gets justice. Hell no. I will never trust Uncle Sam. No, of course not. Goodbye.
Yeah, he hasn't been out in a while, so he just came out last night. 5-minute video, and I got 4 Trish videos. Oh, wait.
Players get more for their money, with more chances and more thrills.
Calling all Thrillionaires. FanDuel Casino.
This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, March 27th, 2026. Precedence routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. Gulf War continues as shipping companies make deals with Iran. War in Lebanon remains intense as IDF nears Litani on the Eastern Front. Airstrikes reported at 2 Iranian uranium production facilities. Beginning with international events, in the Middle East, offensive actions and targeting efforts by all sides were temporarily degraded last night as a major storm system descended on the region. A supercell storm system similar to a cyclone descended on the UAE last night, with severe flooding and high winds being reported throughout Dubai. After the weather cleared, major Iranian targeting efforts were reported throughout the region. Port facilities were struck in Kuwait, and a large fire was observed at the parking apron used by American aircraft at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, with the smoke plume being visible on Sentinel satellite imagery from this morning. Within Iran, this morning, American or Israeli forces struck multiple nuclear production facilities. The Iraq heavy water facility, which was struck years ago, was struck again this morning, and the Yellowcake refinery in Ardakan was also struck. Analysts comment. The risk of radiological release at either facility is low, as Iraq was not functional and Ardakan was not host to enriched uranium itself. However, monitoring will continue as radioactive dust is likely to contaminate the local area to some degree, and time will tell how these threats develop as the strikes continue. In Lebanon, Israeli forces continue their advance north toward the Litani River as FPV drone attacks by Hezbollah become more significant. 2 drone attacks on Israeli armored columns were reported last night along the eastern axis of advance. Israeli forces along the eastern front have made the most progress toward the river, with IDF units being observed in the town of Taybeh this morning. Analysts comment. Hezbollah's media group claims that a total of 21 Merkava tanks have been destroyed so far this campaign. However, as always, these numbers are usually overinflated. Concerning tank casualties, it's incredibly difficult to tell from a video clip if a vehicle was actually penetrated or not, and most of the clips put by Hezbollah conveniently cut away before the tank's trophy countermeasure system is activated. This means that counting destroyed or disabled tanks is mostly a wash. However, from the clips and reports on the ground, this is not an easy fight for the Israelis either. Anti-tank guided missile or ATGM attacks are a mainstay of Hezbollah, and these attacks have been effective in making the Israeli advance more costly than expected. On the home front in Iowa, last night a major egg farm burned down in Corwith. The Hawkeye Pride egg production facility caught fire shortly after 6 p.m. yesterday evening, which resulted in significant damage to the egg farm. Hawkeye Pride is one of the largest cage-free egg producers in the United States, and the extent of the damage to the hen houses has not yet been determined. In California, yesterday evening a blackout was reported in Orange County. mostly affecting the areas of Carlsbad and Encinitas, as well as areas south of Escondido. The cause of the electrical outage has not yet been reported, but services were mostly restored for many customers by sunrise. In Florida, following up on the recent IED threats to MacDill Air Force Base, 2 individuals have been identified as the culprits of the attack. Anne Mary Zhang and her brother Alan Zhang, both Chinese nationals, have been indicted on charges of emplacing the IED at the visitor center on March 10th, before it was discovered by authorities on March 16th. Mary Zhang was arrested on Wednesday after returning to the United States while her brother remains in China. Analyst comments for this wire. Many nation-states have made their deals with the Iranians to allow their shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. However, due to the complex nature of a war being undertaken throughout the region, it's still a tenuous journey for commercial companies. Cargo is beginning to flow to China, Japan, and India, but the volume of shipping through the strait remains severely below normal levels. Iranian targeting efforts have proven to be effective, and vessels are not transiting the strait at all without coordination with Iranian officials, which schedule vessels to transit to Larak Island for inspection before continuing through the strait. At the current rate, the handful of ships that make it through each day are not nearly enough to stop very serious things from happening. Complex systems are beginning to be impacted quite significantly now that the war in the Middle East and the subsequent halt to maritime traffic throughout the region has been going on for 1 month. Diesel rationing is well underway in some parts of Australia, and limited unrest has been reported throughout Southeast Asia as gasoline shortages spread throughout the region. Just as with the start of the war in Ukraine, it will probably take several more months for international markets and supply chains to settle into some sort of reliability. However, since this conflict involves a major maritime choke point, it's very likely that even though many nations are attempting to reroute supply chains as best they can, disruptions are likely to continue for a while. This concludes the wire for 2300 Zulu, March 27th, 2026.
Okay, that was the Wire channel there from yesterday. Okay, we got some Trish videos now.
They got this woke tech guru. Have you ever heard of this? Probably not. But her name's Kara Swisher. And I always want to say Fisher, but her name is Kara Swisher. And let me see if you recognize her. She's actually threatening to leave. I didn't even know she worked for CNN. I mean, what? I mean, I knew she was a tech person. Like, she was out in San Francisco. I used to actually, believe it or not, be kind of a techie. I mean, I'm still kind of techie, but I did a lot of tech reporting when I was out in San Francisco working for CBS Market Watch many years ago. Market Watch, which was eventually owned then by CBS, which eventually then was owned by the Wall Street Journal. That's how these big, acquisitions work. Anyway, when I was out in San Francisco reporting on tech, Kara Swisher was out there. She wound up starting this Recode thing, and I guess sold it to Vox. And now she has a podcast that theoretically is supposed to be about tech, but has morphed into a complete political podcast. So she's a political podcaster, not a tech person anymore. No, I mean, I don't see her ever talking about tech. She goes to tech conferences and talks about politics. And then they're funny. They're at Daily Beast. They're like, CNN star threatens to go to rival network over MAGA makeover. And I'm like, star? Like, I hadn't seen her in years. And I didn't even know she worked for CNN. Do you even know who she is? I mean, maybe if you're into tech, maybe you watch her podcast. But again, I had no idea the podcast was produced by CNN or anything to do it. But she's like all worked up and she's like, I can't believe David Ellison is coming in and buying this thing. I'm not going to work for Paramount. No way, Jose. I'm out of here. And she said this at some kind of journalist event, I guess, in New York State. And I just think it's kind of funny because I'm sure they're like, yeah, bye. I mean, maybe her podcast makes a lot of money. Maybe they get a lot of tech advertisers advertising on it. I don't know. But I'll tell you, she hates the president and anybody associated with the president, my perspective on her anyway. And thus, she really doesn't like David Ellison or his dad, Larry, because they are close to the president. So here we go. Kara Swisher, take it away. She's threatening to go.
So speaking of business, we've been talking about what political reporters, how they might adjust the way they cover the beat to meet the moment in terms of technology. There's also the business of journalism, which is quite impacted by technology, by AI, by the splintering because of social media, but
by
also
the purchasing of
the
media by
structure.
technology billionaires. Do you understand what they're doing?
I do.
Right, Scott. Good move. You'll love it out here. It's much better. You don't want to work for the Ellisons. I've spent a lot of time with Larry Ellison. He's a terrible person.
Okay, so you
recently. Okay, that in and of itself might be a good reason to get rid of her right about now. You know, Mark Thompson, you're looking for heads to cut. I don't know how expensive she is. I imagine she's a pretty penny. So that might be one to consider. After all, she's knocking the boss already.
You said that you would leave CNN if Paramount won the bidding for Warner Brothers. Perhaps as soon as the new series airs, we want to hear about the new series.
The new series. They haven't bought it yet. It's not finished yet.
So is that a for sure thing? Is there a scenario in which you would stay anyway? Like,
I don't see how.
Why? Tell us.
Well, it's interesting because they've been calling me. They've been very nice. They're like, "Hey, Kara, good show with Matt Bellany." They're doing a lot of friendly with me right now, which is like, too bad. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen for you, as I say. I don't think they'll be good owners. I don't. I think they've already shown several times, including editorial choices, which Scott knows more about than I, though I know a lot, Scott, that they have no interest in journalism. And I refuse to work for an organization that doesn't respect journalists. And I don't mean not cutting. Listen, I got out of journalism because I understood the costs were too high and I could make a lot more money if I did it in a more efficient, more digital way. And I think a lot of the legacy organizations have been really stubborn in terms of understanding what's going on. That's not my issue. There has to be cuts. The costs are out of line with the audience, right? That's just the way it is. That's not how you do it. It's a basic disdain for it as anything useful, that there's not a way to reform it except for hiring someone who isn't a journalist. I'm sorry. I just don't, there's no reason.
Oh, we got to hire the journalist. You only want the journalist. I'm sorry. I'm so over that. I would never actually just hire a journalist. I'd like to actually have more people from diverse backgrounds that come from, when kids come to me and say, hey, I want to go into journalism. I'm thinking about taking broadcast journalism at school. What do I tell them? Don't, please don't. Go study English, go study economics. Go study medicine. Go study the weather. I don't care. Have a specialty. Bring something else to the equation, to the table, other than your journalism career, all right? Because nobody really cares about that. All they're going to do is indoctrinate you. At least if you study history or economics, you're coming to the table with something more than what these liberal journalism schools are just trying to spit out, right? Because they want to just keep it going for the long haul, right? We're just going to keep wokeifying everyone. We just make all these woke students come out even woker and we're all set. No, I don't. She's threatened maybe because the idea that, you could actually hire a producer to do a lot of stuff or even the idea that you can have citizen journalists. I mean, I wonder what she thinks of Nick Shirley, right? Like, he's not a journalist. He's not a journalist. He didn't go to journalism school and get his capital J degree. I'm sorry, but that whole genre, it's over. It's done. I never believed in it to begin with because I always thought a journalist should be something more than just something that a university spits out and teaches them how to cut tape. No. We come with more perspective. And you know what? A lot of these citizen journalists, that's exactly what they're doing. And I'm proud to see it, right? It's great to be over here. I will say this. I'm laughing at the whole CNN thing because it's like they've had this epiphany. They're like, oh my gosh, we are getting bought. Our ratings suck. And we need to actually maybe offer a little bit more diversity in what we're showing the viewer. Oh, and how about this? Maybe even, I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe even a little bit of truth, which is why this CNN reporter almost couldn't believe it himself when he was broadcasting this story yesterday morning from Atlanta airport. It kind of made Trump and ICE look rather good.
Well, there may be a celebration here at the airport before it's all said and done, especially for the folks who've been working nonstop, extra shifts. If you look right here, you can see this is the main checkpoint. Almost no lines, no waiting, Sarah. And it's unbelievable at this point. This morning started briskly with a lot of people showing up here at the airport. Lines were long. People were waiting about an hour. But when that rush hour went away pretty quickly this morning, we ended up with this. And there seems to be more lines open than normal right now with the TSA workers here breezing people through. In fact, a lot of folks have been showing up shocked at how short the lines are. Take a listen to some of the folks we talked to this morning.
I don't see how extra security could be bad, I mean, they're going to help out and, make things move a little faster. But whether they're doing that or not, we don't know. But extra security is always good to me.
I mean, you think it's not going to be that bad, but then you get here and, you think, oh man, it really is as bad as they say it is.
So there's a bit of a mix here. So when people were showing up and going right into the TSA pre-check line, a lot of them weren't even checking the main checkpoint line. That line has been open and moving pretty quickly. Some folks just get so used to going to the line they go to, they didn't even check to see what that's like. We've also seen those ICE agents moving through today. A lot of folks are saying they're very pleasant. Look, they're not wearing masks. In fact, on this line right here, you can see two of them standing behind the TSA agents. I'm not sure we can get complete focus on that, but just wanted to show you that they've been walking around the perimeter. Atlanta police have also been added to this equation in terms of showing up extra patrols. But the story...
Point being, the ICE thing is working at the airports, and gosh darn it, CNN reported it. All right, mark your calendar. All right, this is a moment. This is a moment, but it tells you, I think they're reading the tea leaves and they're seeing what's going on. And what I can tell you is the Democrats are actually trying really, really hard to change things. And this woke tech reporter is kind of hoping that maybe the Democrats will and that they'll stall this deal. The latest and greatest on that is that the Democrats have all gotten together and they said, wait a second, we would like to maybe have some more review of this because we see that Ellison has some investment from some foreign sources. And because of the foreign sources, then we should have the FCC weigh in. Well, the FCC, Brennan Carr has said, well, I don't need to weigh in on this one because it's a domestic deal. And if it were foreign sources, then it should actually be CFIUS. CFIUS is the entity that oversees any kind of foreign merger, but the sort of threshold, if you would, of how much foreign money is there, it's not high enough to actually bring in something like CFIUS. So the Democrats are just going to have to deal. It looks like their little baby there that used to be run by their definite little baby, Zucker, who used to be over at NBC. It's all going up in smoke, okay? It's all going up in smoke, and things are going to change. And guess what? David Ellison is going to come in there, and David is going to figure out he's got to make this thing work. And how do you make this thing work? You change it all. Okay, Barry, I hope you're ready because you're over at CBS and you may get a bigger gig having to change all of this. And what it's going to mean is you need to empower more people to go out and be citizen journalists and to use all of the technology available to them to help bring these stories straight to the people, or even the people straight to the stories. You know my whole theory on the goggles, right? Those, like goggles that you can put on at Apple that take you right into the metaverse, if you would, the metaverse 3.0. That's like, it's going to be great and it's going to be amazing. And there's a lot that can be done, but they got to get there. And I don't think they're going to get there with their current team.
Hey, that's the number one, Trish, there. I'm going to play Billy Bean and come back, get hers, and long ways to go.
I'm in Texas about 9 a.m. Some of the things we'll cover today, an update on the possible bomb threat at Chevron Phillips in Orange, Texas. More information on the bomb at MacDill military base in Tampa, Florida. And has Israel gone rogue? And President Trump continues peace talks. So let's get started. I just tried to get updates on the bomb threat I reported yesterday at the Chevron Phillips plant located in Orange, Texas. And what comes up is it's a developing story, and the last thing posted was yesterday. So we don't know what the current status is of the Golden Triangle Polymers plant and the Chevron Phillips plant located in Orange, Texas. We do know yesterday they were evacuated. We had a lockdown at a local high school. So we know that happened yesterday. But apparently there's been a lockdown on more information. So that's going on. We do have more details about the bomb that was found at MacDill Military Base, located in Tampa, Florida, a few days ago, home to CENTCOM, that's currently calling the shots in the Middle East conflict. We do know that the DOJ issued arrest warrants for 2 people, a brother and sister, and now we're learning a third person, and that the brother actually built the bomb, the sister and a third person assisted in putting the bomb in the visitor center at MacDill Air Force Base, and that the bomb was actually positioned, it looks like March 16, and that 20-year-old Alan Zhang, Chinese national, has been charged with building the bomb. He is back in China, so the U.S. is seeking extradition. And we do know that a few days ago, the bomb was actually planted at the visitor center at MacDill. A 911 call was made, putting forth a bomb threat. And that then subsequently, the U.S. military located the bomb in the visitors area. And it was strong enough to have caused casualties. And the brother and sister, right after they planted the bomb, then sold their black Mercedes that was used to transport the bomb. That's been located by law enforcement. There are traces of explosives in the Mercedes. They both booked flights back to China. Apparently, the brother was able to get back to China. Police have also searched their home and found more explosives, plus other evidence indicating that the bomb was built at their home. The DOJ issued the arrest warrants. The sister is Anne Mary Zhang, 27. She was arrested in Detroit. And we have a third person involved, last name Elder, appears to be an American citizen, who made the 911 call and is being charged with conspiracy.
It's time to earn double points when you get treated with Juvederm filler and Botox Cosmetic at the same visit.
So 3 arrest warrants have been issued. So that's going on. We had a separate incident in the last few days of individuals, Sammy Zhang of Hong Kong, plus 2 Americans, Matthew Kelly of New York and Tommy English of Georgia, putting together for several years shell companies to smuggle NVIDIA chips back to China. So that's going on. They've arrest warrants have been issued for them. And we have this. So we have this coming out from U.S. Intel. Can confirm that the U.S. military going to the Middle East now. We know we have the 82nd, we have the Marines, we have Rangers, Delta, SEALs, plus going to the Middle East. They're all being trained now on how to properly use their personal protective equipment, especially the helmet device. You have to tightly fit it around your mouth. That's why facial hair generally is not allowed in the military. But there are heightened threats that the U.S. military in the Middle East will face possible nuclear, biological, or chemical events. So that's going on. They are being given further instruction today. Now, what about Israel and Netanyahu? David Nino Rodriguez brings this out, and we've heard, and I've put out, we have multiple sources that Bibi Netanyahu was injured in some type of event in Berlin, Germany, 7 to 10 days ago, and has either been killed or is in a coma. I have put out, and I continue to see, Bibi Netanyahu doubles on the U.S. TV system. And we're hearing this. President Trump has not mentioned Bibi Netanyahu in days. And a source in Germany brings this out. Bibi Netanyahu's jet has been on the ground in Berlin for weeks. So that's going on. We have this from Canadian Prepper, that in Iran, several nuclear power plants have been hit. And I'll go into this in more detail. Has Israel gone rogue? And we're hearing that 3 KC-135 U.S. military refuelers have been damaged at the U.S. military base in UAE, and that 6 amphibious U.S. military boats have been damaged. We don't have corroborating information about this. We do hear this, the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, plus, want the U.S. to change the government in Iran. They want that group totally wiped out. And we're hearing this, Israel, Russia is now limiting exports of its natural gas and oil. And we're hearing that this morning, Iran turned back 2 Chinese cargo ships and would not let them pass through the Strait of Hormuz. And we have this. We have also from U.S. intel that President Trump, has said the U.S. military would hold off on hitting electric power plants in Iran, or power plants, until April 6th. But we saw this morning Israel going rogue again and hitting inside Iran a nuclear power plant. As we've seen Israel go rogue in the past and hitting the Pansirs natural gas plant inside Iran, and also an oil facility near Tehran. It's widely believed by multiple sources that Israel made these hits independent and unknown to the U.S. And what can we say? It's reasonable now to question who is in charge in Israel, with it widely believed that Bibi Netanyahu is not calling the shots. As we see a similar situation inside Iran with multiple levels of their government infrastructure being taken out, we also don't know exactly who is calling the shots in Iran. So we do have that going on. And we have now Iran, because Israel hit a nuclear power plant in Iran. Iran is now going to retaliate to hit steel plants. Israel also hit steel plants inside Iran. So Iran is going to retaliate against its Gulf states neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE. And we have this So March 28th, this morning, Israel has also taken out other Iranian leaders, including the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Industry, and additional Iranian leaders. And also made hits on Hosier University inside Iran and ground force facilities and fuel logistics and other strikes. So that's going on. And we have this. We have from U.S. Intel, Israel hit several steel plants inside Iran. Now, it's my perspective that Israel is engaging in rogue hits on Iran, independent of the U.S. So I mentioned that Israel had hit in the last 7 to 10 days the Pan-Sears natural gas plant inside Iran. They hit an oil facility near Tehran. And we're seeing them hit nuclear power plants inside Iran today, as well as steel plants. Now, all of these hits being made by Israel are not necessarily military targets, but rather industries and companies and power infrastructure in Iran that could benefit the Iranian people once the U.S. is successful in bringing in a different government, getting rid of the risk of Iran using nukes. And I believe Iran already has nukes. And we know that Israel also has nukes. It's believed that Iran also has biological and chemical warfare supplies, as does Israel. But we see what appears to be two different agendas by the U.S. and by Israel. The U.S. wants to have regime change, get rid of the threat of Iran using nukes or missiles or drones, while Israel wants to have regime change in Iran, but Israel also wants to destroy any economic benefit by multiple sources to Iran. Two different agendas, and as I brought out, it appears that Bibi Netanyahu is not in charge in Israel. So if Israel's going rogue, who is calling those shots? And we have Iran today threatening its Gulf states neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. So that's going on. And we have this from New York Prepper. Yeah, so yesterday we saw oil going up, stock market going down by about 800 points. Oil up to 100 plus per barrel. And over the U.S. yesterday, we had 3 nuclear control and command planes up, one over Montana, one with its transponder off, one taking off from Tinker Military Base.
There's always something new at Gun Lake Casino Resort.
So that's going on. And we had yesterday also the bomb threat in Texas at the Chevron Phillips plant in Orange, Texas, which continues to be a developing story. We have Israel escalating hits on Iran, or Israel stating it will escalate its hits on Iran in the coming week. We know that President Trump has said the U.S. is not going to hit power plants inside Iran until April 6th. So we'll see what Israel does in the coming week regarding its threat of escalated hits on Iran. And President Trump continues to think about using ground troops in Iran. The White House believes it's unlikely that Iran will agree to peace talks we believe are currently going on in Pakistan. And we're hearing the possibility that the U.S. military will use the Marines and other forces to take Karg Island, and that the U.S. will use the Marines to gain control of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's going on. And we have this from China Observer. Excuse me. China Observer gives a report from a police officer who has defected from China, saying that in China, in the military and the police, they get fuel, but the officers sell the fuel. So often there's not enough fuel, and the officers also sell food intended for the Chinese military and the police officers. So that often the Chinese military and the Chinese police don't have enough food to feed their officers, nor do they have fuel to engage in drills or even to prosecute their normal duties. And we have this, yes, that in China, the officers sell the fuel intended for the Chinese military and police, thus taking down the ability of both the Chinese military and police. So I say it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, that's the first Billy Bean. Moving on here.
And honestly.
This is what you call a bombshell. Okay, G. Vance coming out and confirming today everything that we suspected about one Ilhan Omar, at least as it relates to her citizenship. And now the big question is, what do they do about it? Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. Make sure you subscribe, share, like, make a comment. I see it all. And boy, this day is going down in history because the Vice President of the United States of America just came out and said what we all suspected. He's saying they have confirmation of this. We knew that the DOJ.
Okay, I think we did that one, right? So let's do. Let's go ahead and let's do the interview.
We actually think that Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud.
This is the full interview, you guys.
There was a 2028 run. Would you rather run against Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, or AOC?
Oh, God.
So you're saying that Joe Rogan is wrong.
We saw
aliens.gov.
I don't think they're aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion.
There's a lot going on in the world, and you deserve answers straight from the chat. We have questions live from inside of the Executive Vice President's office at the White House. We are joined by J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, to answer your questions. Let's go. You're here with the Vice President of the United States. J.D., how's it going? Congratulations on baby number 4, by the way. Why not start off with that?
Well, congratulations to you as well.
Population problem.
That's right. That's right. 8 kids between the two of us. So we're doing our part to make sure that America's birth rate stays high. But we're very excited. Yusha's doing healthy. The baby's doing well. So knock on wood, we appreciate your prayers.
The Johnsons and the Vances doing their part. That's right. What's your advice to young men, young Christian men coming out like when it comes to fatherhood, I mean, I guess like an important driver, right? Of the motivation to do big, tough things. Like
that's right.
Going after fraud, like preserving an America for our children. It's like actually a great motivator.
That's right. Well, first of all, my advice to young men who are thinking about becoming fathers, who are about to have babies is you're never ready, right? There's no point at which you can sort of get all your little ducks in a row and get all your financial situation in a row. Whenever you have a baby, whatever stage of life, it will be shocking. It will be crazy. It will be the most difficult and the most rewarding thing that you've ever done. And I think about this all the time when a buddy of mine said that the only thing that actually prepared him for being a father was when Usha and I showed up with our first kid, and he was like 3 weeks old, and we looked like zombies because we had no idea what the hell we were doing. We had no idea how to raise this kid. And that said, I would do it all over again. In fact, if I have one regret, it's a very slight regret. I wish that we had started early and had more, because it's the most rewarding. It's the coolest thing. Now that our kids are, they're at the age 8, 6, and 4, where they've got their own little personalities and they're so quirky and fun. They're all into different sports, and it's just an amazing thing. But I think our society tells young men that you only have kids after everything in your life is perfect. And I think that's a ridiculous attitude. You have kids, you figure it out. They're the thing that perfects life.
Fatherhood is the absolute best motivator. It's
Absolutely.
Good,
Yes, it is.
Like the biggest lie is that like kids will take away from your careers. It actually 10x's your career and your motivation. Fixing fraud is a massive motivation for you and the fraud task force.
That's right.
You got to fix fraud to preserve an America for our children. You have to fix fraud to preserve Western civilization. We won't have a country.
Correct.
It keeps going the way that it's going.
We'll go bankrupt, and everything that makes America great will disappear if we allow fraudsters to steal the American dream from the next generation. I actually just met with Nick Shirley one-on-one very briefly. Of course, he's one of the people who really blew the lid off this crazy fraud in Minnesota with the Somalian illegal immigrant community there. And you know what he said is, a lot of people in my generation, Nick, I don't know exactly how old he is. He's probably 21, 22. He's like, they can't find a job making $60,000 a year, which is what they'd like to be able to, buy a home and support a family. And meanwhile, they've got fraudsters. He's talking about his friends, not abstractions. His friends can't find that job, but they see people driving Mercedes making $1 million defrauding the American people. It's an absolute disgrace. And I think if we don't fix it, we are not going to have a country in 10 years.
Well, what people need to see, I think that the fraud has been laid bare. We've all seen the Leering Center, right?
Correct.
The Leering Center is not an actual daycare.
No.
The Leering Center was fraud, right? And we've seen the hospice fraud in California. And so I think it's been demonstrated that this is a problem. What people need to see now is like arrests, right?
100%.
Deportations. They need to see that the federal government, the gears of justice grind against these people, and they're not allowed to just continue.
Yes. So let me give you an example, something I just talked about upstairs, but I think it's worth reiterating for your viewers. So you take a program that exists within Medicaid to help autistic children get the resources that they need. So you have a Somalian fraudster in suburban Minneapolis who says that they have 3 kids who are autistic, and maybe they don't even have 3 kids, and they certainly don't have 3 kids who are autistic. So it takes money away from the American citizens who need these services. It defrauds the taxpayer. And you're absolutely right that the thing that we need to do is get real justice. So, something I learned just the past couple of months, I had no idea that we do not prosecute fraud in this country if it's under $1.5 million per year. Okay? So think about that. Think of all the people who are $1.5 million a year. This is not chump change. That is meaningful money. And by the way, sometimes by prosecuting the lower level people, you get to the higher level people, who have sort of the conspiracy to commit fraud.
I think this is my first video with him talking on an interview. I've never seen one on an interview with JD.
Fraud against the American people. So one of the things that we're trying to do with this task force is commit the Department of Justice to investigating all fraud and actually going after the people who are doing it at the small scale of $1.4 million, but also actually looking at the big conspiracies that are out there. Because, Benny, I don't know about you, but I do not believe that what happened with the Somalian immigrant community in Minnesota, I don't think that happens without some cooperation from politicians, without other people looking the either way, or maybe even being in the fraud themselves.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, Ilhan Omar, the president and the White House have been out saying that she married her brother, that there is immigration fraud going on here. These are deportable denaturalization offenses. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah. So we actually think that Ilhan Omar definitely committed immigration fraud against the United States of America. And I talked to Stephen Miller about this actually recently. We're trying to look at what the remedies are. That's the thing that we're trying to figure out is what are the legal remedies now that we know that she's committed immigration fraud? How do you go after her? How do you investigate her? How do you actually do the thing? How do you build the case necessary to get some justice for the American people? There's a related issue, Benny, which is she has been at the center of a lot of the worst fraudsters in the Somalian community. So do I know that Ilhan Omar was aware that the Quality Leering Center was defrauding the American people? I'm not certain of it, but we at least need to investigate it, because if people can commit wrongdoing without even the fear that they're going to be found out, that's a fundamental problem. So I'm worried about the immigration fraud. I'm also worried about what did Ilhan Omar know about what was happening in the Somali community, and why was nobody looking into it until, frankly, Donald Trump came along.
Yeah, that's right. What about, your friend, Tim Walz? I mean, you guys shared a wonderful moment on the debate stage together.
I do feel very bad for Tim Walz because of what happened in the October 2024 debate. But unfortunately, we're going to have to maybe kick him again a little bit, because, again, I don't know. To be clear, I don't know what Tim Walz knew about the fraud that was happening in Minneapolis. But what I do know is that the Department of Justice is now going to look into it. We're now going to investigate it. And if he committed a crime, we're absolutely going to prosecute it.
Yeah, same with Gavin Newsom in California. There's a lot
going on
there.
Same with Gavin Newsom. Same with a lot of folks.
Voter fraud in California, hospice fraud. What about the voter fraud? Them like just using fictitious names, paying people for votes. Perhaps you've seen this?
We've seen this. We've also, look, California is the state that is most ripe for voter fraud, because they will literally prosecute you if you ask for voter ID. And this is one of the reasons why, Benny, to bring in another subject, this is why the Senate has to grow a spine and pass the Save America Act. Because when you allow people to cast a ballot and you don't even check their ID, in fact, you prosecute somebody at the polling booth who would check their ID, you necessarily invite fraud. And my favorite response on this, Benny, from people is when they say that, well, voter fraud doesn't happen that often. Yes. Two problems. Number one, not that often is still too much voter fraud in the United States of America. The right amount of voter fraud is actually zero. And number two is, if voter fraud doesn't happen that often, then why are you guys so dedicated to stopping our anti-fraud efforts? In other words, why do you care so much? And the reason they care so much is because they know that fraud happens in both our voting system, but also our welfare system way more often than they let on.
You were in the Senate. You worked with some of these senators who refused to support the SAVE Act, like Mitch McConnell, Murkowski. You know the Senate and how it works. They're going on recess now, and people are enraged about that without passing the SAVE Act.
Yep.
They're now going on recess.
Or without funding the Department of Homeland Security.
Exactly right. This must frustrate you. You're the president of the Senate, I think, if I read the Constitution correctly.
That's right. That's right.
So what's your word to the senators here? What would you like to see happen? Are you available to cast the deciding vote to pass the SAVE Act?
Absolutely. I am available whenever they would like to pass it. The problem is we actually do not have 50 senators, not who would vote for the SAVE Act, but who would overrule the filibuster. That's something that a majority of the Senate, you need 50 senators plus me, and I'm certainly on board, 50 senators to actually overrule this archaic rule and pass the Save America Act. Now here, this is the thing that I find so absurd about this. If you remember, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, two people I didn't always agree with politically, moderate Democrats, but very good people. They are the people who saved the filibuster when the Democrats were in control of the Senate just a couple of years ago. What happened to them? They were tarred and feathered by the far left. They were ran out of town. So when Mitch McConnell and Lisa Murkowski say, well, we need to protect the filibuster because the Democrats, they're not going to do it, so we shouldn't do it either. The Democrats ruined the career of Kyrsten Sinema for not overruling the filibuster. They're going to do it. So we might as well do it now to enforce the protection of the American electoral system. It's the dumbest political argument I've ever seen. I promise you, Benny, I would bet every dollar that I own that the next time the Democrats have control of the Senate, they will break the filibuster, pack the Supreme Court, and destroy this country. We have to do it now in order to save the country.
Should the Senate be going on recess right now?
No, of course not. Of course not. We should at least, the very minimum product that we should get before anybody's going on recess is, let's reopen the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, I heard from my mother-in-law this morning, chaos at airports. She's flying this morning. There are over 4-hour waits at the Houston airport. That's probably one of the airports that's the most affected by this. We want people to be able to fly and see their families over the Easter holiday without having to wait 6 hours in a TSA line. We want the TSA agents who are keeping our airports safe to be able to get paid. We want the people who are running our Coast Guard ships and preventing drug cartels from bringing fentanyl into our country. We want them to be getting paid. They're not getting paid because Democrats shut down DHS and went on recess. Republicans in the Senate should not be playing along.
So we wouldn't actually need a SAVE Act if we got rid of all the illegal immigrants in this country, right? There would be no.
I would still
voting.
like it, but sure.
Of course, but like it's like you're trying to put a Band-Aid on like the real problem, and I think the real problem is I don't know, what is the estimate from the White House of how many criminal aliens there are in this nation? And will we ever see mass deportations? There's been some headlines that like perhaps that's not the policy anymore.
No, I mean, I've seen those headlines too. If you look at the number of illegal immigrants that exist in this country, we think that it's probably about 3 million lower than it was when we took office about 14 months ago. Now, that's a combination of self-deportations. We're trying to facilitate people who leave voluntarily. That's also, we're arresting more people and deporting them than we have pretty much at any period in the history of the U.S. government. The problem is we did inherit a mess. I mean, when I say 3 million, good news is that's 3 million fewer. My guess is we probably still have 20 million criminal illegal aliens in the United States of America. So there's a lot of work to do. But again, goes back to we've got to keep our foot on the gas pedal. And we also need a Republican Senate and a Republican House that's helping us. What I've realized, Penny, about Democrats and Republicans is Democrats, they always stick together. They always vote the way that their leadership tells them to vote. So when you say, well, you have 53 Republican senators, why can't you get the Save America Act passed? And the reality is that we've only got 48 or 49 Republican senators who are willing to do the right thing. Good news, that's much higher than it was, okay? So even 10 years ago, I mean, this is one of the fundamental transformations that Donald Trump has wrought on the Republican Party is 10 years ago, there would have been 35 votes to break the filibuster and pass Save America. Now it's 48. So don't get discouraged. Just get involved because we need to get that 48 to 51 so we can pass this thing.
So you're saying that Joe Rogan is wrong.
Your house deserves a glow up. Your house deserves LP SmartSide siding. Siding with curb appeal that'll get you compliments for years to come. Durability never looks so good. That's smart.
Here at the Score Bet, it's not just a tournament, it's personal. We've got the easiest way to bet what you believe. No fluff.
Because Joe yesterday was roasting the Trump administration, saying probably the most offensive thing you could say, which is that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama are better at deporting people than you.
I did not see Joe say this. I'm going to text Joe because that is definitely wrong. So here's why this is wrong. When you look at the deportation numbers that go back to the Obama administration, they would count somebody who showed up at the border and they turned away as a deportation, okay? Now, we have almost no one showing up at the border because the border is secure. So if you have somebody show up at the border, let them cross into our country, provide them some free medical care and free food, and then you send them home, that counted as a deportation. What we're talking about is interior deportations. We're taking the flood of people that Joe Biden led into our country and getting them out of our country. The numbers from the Obama administration or any other administration, they weren't doing a tenth of what we're doing. So Joe is wrong on this. We've been the best administration in American history at deporting illegal aliens. The problem is we also followed the worst administration at letting them in. So there's a lot of work to do.
Joe says MAGA's full of dorks. What do you think? Do you consider yourself a dork? Because MAGA's dorks.
I think we have many, many fewer dorks than the far left, but everybody's got some dorks. We love our dorks. We love our cool kids. We love anybody who wants to save the country.
So the domestic policy issues critical for the midterms, obviously.
Yes.
High gas. Nobody likes it. Grocery prices, there's been ups and downs, right? But also homes. I know this is critical for you. You're young. You're the youngest vice president in history. You're a young father. You understand the pains of young fathers trying to have housing for their families.
Of course.
And also what a threshold that is to actually start a family if you don't have a home.
That's right.
Right? And so what can young people expect from this administration when it comes to affordability?
So you've heard me say this before, Benny, but I'll repeat it. But one of the main drivers of housing costs is that we let in so many people into our country and that we didn't build enough homes. Too many illegal immigrants weren't building enough homes. We're fixing both of those problems. If you actually look at rents have gone down, not stayed flat. They've gone down in the United States of America for the past 6 months. Now, I understand a lot of people were saying rents got too high, housing prices got too high. The fact that they have leveled off is a good thing, but again, we've got more work to do, but we've made a lot of progress there. You're right, gas prices way too high right now because of what's going on in the Middle East. The president said this is going to be short term. It's going to be a blip, as he said, a little excursion, and the gas prices are going to come back down to reality. Food prices, I think that we've done a good job. Again, I think rent and housing is probably where you've seen the most movement over the past 6 months, but there's just a lot more to do. And Rome wasn't built in a day. And I try to remind myself that while the average American has actually, this is just simple, objective dollars and cents, has gained about $1,400 since Donald Trump became president in take-home pay. The average American lost $3,000 when Joe Biden was president. So we've made a lot of progress, but Biden left us in a big hole and we've got a lot more work to do. And by the way, just to be fair to Joe Biden, which, I would never hear me do.
Wasn't counting on hearing that.
But look, Biden accelerated problems that existed in this country for 30, 40 years. And it was bipartisan, it was Democrat and Republican. It was ship all of our jobs to China, let illegal aliens into our communities to make them less safe and to make it harder to buy a home. That was the official policy of the government until Donald J. Trump came along. You're not going to fix all of that in 14 months, but we've made a lot of progress and progress I'm very proud of.
Mass deportations really tied to so many of those issues.
100%.
So many of those affordability issues. There's 20 million people here that shouldn't be here.
Correct.
And many of them are on welfare. And if 40% of the people are getting their food for free, what does that do for the people who are paying?
It drives up the price of food for everybody else. By the way, have you gone to an emergency room in the last few years in this country? Of course, you're going to have half of the people there who don't speak English, who require a translator. That's resources that's not going to doctors and nurses. And then, of course, you're going to have a much longer wait time because people are there. It's one of the things that you see. You're already starting to see evidence of hospital wait times, emergency rooms are more functional because we have fewer illegal aliens in the country.
So gas prices were down. I think the national average was close to $2 a
Correct.
gallon. And do you think that's like where the actual status is? Do you think that's where that's natural? And, obviously the excursion in Iran is what's doing this with the high gas prices. As somebody who's enlisted, obviously as somebody who's served, what is your message to the troops? What does the off-ramp look like in Iran?
Well, the president said, look, we've accomplished the gross majority of our military objectives. I think you can make a good argument we've accomplished all of our military objectives. The president's going to keep at it for a little while longer to ensure that once we leave, we don't have to do this again for a very, very long time. That was fundamentally the president's goal. He said, look, this country, they're threatening us in all these ways. They're still trying to build a nuclear weapon. We need to neuter them for a very, very long time, and that's the purpose. You're right. Gas prices have certainly gone up because of what's going on in the Middle East, but they're going to come down, right? This is a very, very temporary reaction to what is going to ultimately be a short-term conflict. I think the president's been very clear about this, that we're not interested in being in Iran a year down the road, 2 years down the road. We're taking care of business. We're going to be out of there soon, and gas prices are going to come back down.
We use the discombobulator.
I cannot talk about the discombobulator. That's highly classified, Benny.
It's my job to ask these kind of questions. You're going to release all the UFO files?
We're working on it. It's funny. When I came in, I was obsessed with the UFO files. And then you start getting really busy worrying about the economy and national security and things like that. But I've still got 3 more years as vice president. I will get to the bottom of the UFO files.
Okay. Have you peeked? Have you done a peek?
So I actually haven't. I have
full
not.
Independence Day.
I have not been able to spend enough time on this to really understand it. Yeah. But I am going to. Trust me. I'm obsessed with this. I've already had a couple of times where I'm like, all right, we're going to Area 51. We're going out to New Mexico. We're going to sort of get to the bottom of this. And then the timing of the trip just didn't work out. But trust me, anybody who's curious about this, I'm more curious than anybody. And I've got 3 years of the very, very tippy top of the classification. I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
Okay, so you haven't been to Area 51 yet?
Not
Okay.
yet.
Some
Not
people
yet.
say they keep the UFOs in Ohio. They might
Yeah,
have been
Hangar
right
18, Hangar 18, right?
under your nose the whole time.
I've heard that as well, but I don't know. I haven't looked into it yet.
Okay, all right. Well, we're waiting for it. We saw aliens.
And you know me.
We saw
You know me.
aliens.gov.
I don't think they're aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion.
Well, I can't let you go without a follow-up on that. Because Barack Obama is on this podcast and he goes, yeah, aliens are real, but like, here's where they're not.
I did not.
And so Obama says, yes,
hear that
aliens
one.
he gets asked point blank, are aliens real? He says, oh, yeah. And then he goes, but they're not at Area 51. And
where are they, bro?
Well, that's what he says. Right. That's a great question.
I need
Trump
to see
had to
this-
go save
I
him,
need
and
to
he
see
said
this
he's going to
podcast.
declassify.
Okay.
So you think they're demons?
Well, look, I think that celestial beings who fly around, who do weird things to people, I think that the desire to describe everything celestial, everything as otherworldly, to describe it as aliens. I mean, every great world religion, including Christianity, the one that I believe in, has understood that there are weird things out there. And there are things that are very difficult to explain. And I naturally go, when I hear about sort of extra natural phenomenon, that's where I go to, is the Christian understanding that, there's a lot of good out there, but there's also some evil out there. And I think that one of the devil's great tricks is to convince people he never existed.
Yes. Okay, I've been given the wrap, but here we go. I can't let you go without one final question, the last question.
All right.
I'm not going to ask you about running in 2028. I won't. Okay, I won't. I've heard the answer a million times. But I will ask you this. Since we started on fraud, and since it's going to come back to it.
I played sports growing up. Loved it. Boys played with boys. Girls with girls. Logical, right?
If, perhaps, hypothetically, there was a 2028 run, would you rather run against Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, or AOC?
Oh, God. Oh, man. You just asked the question. You just asked it in a different way to try to trick me. I'm not nearly as easy to trick, but look, I'll say this about the Democrats. They don't seem to have a very strong bench. And I'm not too worried about any of these people as political candidates. I am worried about them as potential presidents because they're all in their own way nightmares. The thing that I continue to find very interesting about the modern Democratic Party is, on the one hand, they say that they stand for working people. And on the other hand, they support the importation of millions and millions of people who undercut the wages of working people, who take away housing and healthcare from working people, who stretch the social fabric that normal Americans depend on. And I just think until the Democrat Party wakes up to the fact that, Cesar Chavez, the old socialist union organizer who hated illegal immigration, recognized this, that you cannot stand for working people and mass immigration. You have to choose one. Until the Democrats make a smart choice, I'm not worried about who they nominate, but God forbid any one of those people ever became president, because then we would have what Biden did to this country on steroids.
And now Jimmy Kimmel's making fun of plumbers. You see that?
I
Mark
did not
Wayne
see
Mullen
that.
upstairs. He said Mark Wayne Mullen's a plumber. Shame on him. He shouldn't be in charge of our security.
You'll be
That's what
shocked to
Kimmel
find out that I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel on the regular. I deal with enough annoying people as it is.
said. Well, that was real life. Ladies and gentlemen, J.D. Vance live from inside of the executive office of the vice president here at the White House, talking demons and aliens. Speaking of alien demons, Ilhan Omar potentially getting deported. What a wild interview. We hope that you enjoyed it. We took all of the questions directly from the chat. We are a channel that is going to lock in and make sure that we are pushing your priorities here. That is my job, to ensure that your voice is heard by the people that you elect. Also, that America First policies are instituted, and that's why I'm proud to be partnering with the America First Policy Institute on this interview and many more to come. America First Policy Institute ensures that our elected officials have the side held up when it comes to actually passing policies and enforcing regulations that serve our movement and the American people. It's not enough to just get to DC. You have to actually work once you are here. The housing policy issue is something that I've been working on personally with AFPI, and we're proud to have them as a partner on this banger of an interview. Hope you enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm glad I got the interview in. Time for short videos.
North Vietnamese ships attacked a U.S. destroyer. The attack never happened. The lie gave Congress the votes to pass the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. It launched the Vietnam War. Decades later, declassified documents proved the government knew it was false. Number 2. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Starting in 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service told 600 black men they were getting free health care for bad blood. They were actually being watched die from syphilis. Doctors withheld penicillin even after it became the proven cure in 1947. The study lasted 40 years. The government only admitted the truth when a reporter exposed it in 1972. Number 3. The CIA's MK Ultra program. In the 1950s and 60s, the CIA drugged American citizens with LSD without their knowledge. Prisoners, mental patients, and even CIA employees were dosed. The goal was to find mind control methods. The program was exposed in 1975. Most documents were destroyed. The full truth may never be known. Number 4. The Gulf of Tonkin wasn't the only one. In 1981, the Navy claimed Libyan jets fired on American aircraft. The Reagan administration used the incident to justify military action. Years later, officials admitted no attack happened. The story was fabricated to rally public support. Number 5. The Tuskegee experiments weren't the only medical lies. Between 1945 and 1962, the government injected plutonium into hospital patients without telling them. They told patients they were receiving treatment. Instead, doctors were studying how long radioactive materials stayed in the human body. Some patients lived for decades with plutonium in their bones. Number 6. The Waco Siege. In 1993, the government told Americans they raided the Branch Davidians for illegal weapons. 76 people died, including 25 children. Years later, declassified files showed the ATF had no warrant and botched the operation from the start. The government's official story changed multiple times. Number 7. The FBI's campaign against Martin Luther King Jr. J. Edgar Hoover called King the most dangerous man in America. The FBI wiretapped him, blackmailed him, and sent him anonymous letters urging him to commit suicide. The public didn't know the extent until years after King's death. Before I say the last one, follow for more history content. Number 8. The Pentagon Papers. In 1971, a secret government report was leaked showing the government had lied about Vietnam for decades. Presidents from Truman to Johnson knew the war was unwinnable. They kept sending soldiers anyway. The government tried to stop publication. The Supreme Court ruled the press had the right to publish. The truth finally came out.
Hey, I thought that was interesting video.
Big things, Nick. So the first of all is we're going to be coordinating across the government in a way that's really never been done before to focus on anti-fraud. So let's say, for example, that Scott Bessent or somebody at the Secretary of Treasury's office sees a fraudulent payment made, but it's not, it's not at the Treasury Department, it's at the Center for Medicare or Medicaid. There's going to be coordination now so that when one person in the government sees fraud happening, they're actually telling everybody else so that we can get to the root of it and hopefully prosecute it. And that leads me to my second point, and maybe the most important is we've never before within the Department of Justice had a committed anti-fraud task force, a committed assistant attorney general who's focused on the fraud issue. What our new AAG focused on fraud has told me that right now we don't even prosecute fraud that's under $1.5 million, which means there's a lot of fraudsters who never get caught, who never get punished. We're changing that too.
So there's people who are making $1.5 million committing fraud, and they used to not be prosecuted. When can we expect to see prosecutions take place, for instance, for example, like the Lears at the Leering Center?
So we just got AAG, our new AAG confirmed. He hasn't even been sworn in yet. I'll swear him in next week, actually. And look, I think the plan is we got to start doing prosecutions as quickly as possible. These cases take a little while to build. You've got to investigate. You've got to gather evidence. But now that we have that guy set up, now that we have Colin McDonald set up, I think in a matter of months, we should be seeing a significant ramp up in the number of prosecutions that we're seeing.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Of course. Good to meet you, man. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Let's let the fraudsters lear their lesson the hard way.
Okay, that was a good one. Okay, 2 minutes.
Stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's according to two people familiar with the matter. It would add to a massive U.S. military buildup as the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran continues. The move would expand options to include deployment of forces inside Iranian territory and could dramatically raise the stakes in the operation, which is already in its fourth week and has roiled global markets. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump on Tuesday continued to talk about a possible deal with Iran to end the war. Tehran denies the conversations have taken place.
We're in negotiations right now. They're doing it along with Marco, JD. We have a number of people doing it. And the other side, I can tell you, they'd like to make a deal.
He also said that Iran has made a major energy-related concession to the United States, describing it as a positive development, although he did not give details. Trump suggested the gift was related to the Strait of Hormuz, the oil transit waterway that the United States has struggled to keep open.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. It was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money.
The war with Iran has taken a toll on Trump's popularity. The latest Reuters Ipsos poll shows Trump's approval rating has fallen to 36%, the lowest since he returned to the White House. Americans expressed widespread disapproval of the war as they deal with a surge in fuel prices. Only 29% of the country approves of Trump's economic stewardship, the lowest rating in either of Trump's presidential administrations, and lower than any economic approval rating of his predecessor, Democrat Joe Biden.
Okay, that was a short clip. Another 4-minute one.
On the hillside, and they all look just the same.
Get
Now declared an unlawful assembly in violation of the Department of Aviation. You are now subject to arrest and criminal trespass if you do not leave. The Department of Aviation will cite complaints for criminal trespass to property. I ask that you leave now and you will be allowed to leave. If you continue to stay, you will be placed in custody for criminal trespass in state-supported land by the Department of Aviation. What kind of timeline are we talking about? Right now, everyone needs to disperse. If you do not wish to leave, that is okay. You will be arrested.
Stop it! I'm telling you, I'm giving you a lawful order. You can't say now. You've got to give us a time. Listen up, officer. I'm telling you, you can't say now. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a lawful order. You've got to give us some time. You've got to give us some time to clear the area. Get back on your balloon. I changed the time. Give us some time to disperse.
What do you guys think?
This is private property. You need to leave. It's restricted areas of the airport. I'm giving you time now to leave and go to the CPA or wherever it is your cars are. But if you're in the pen in the next 1 minute, you will be arrested.
We need more than 1 minute. Please, we need more than 1 minute. I'm giving you a lawful order. I'm telling you to stand down. Stop back and stand down. I'm telling you to move back. Don't do that. Because otherwise, you know what I do when you do that? Mendez, you have no reason to do that. You really don't. I'm telling you.
For the time limit like this. You are in violation right now.
They are attacking our First Amendment rights.
Why was it allowed? There is no freedom of speech in America. Okay, that allowed us to be inside of
For you, I am
Crazy.
because
What up, there are they can't protest in front of a stupid airport.
That is the greatest right I have in life.
And the welcoming city ordinance.
Now, the Chicago Police Department.
That's the complete opposite of what I was told by the mayor's office. That is the exact opposite.
I'm telling you what's happening right now. Once they went inside, the decision's made, and I'm not a liar. I've been very
I'm about to fight you myself.
Okay, I'm actually been very respectful. Again,
you showed up with 100 officers for 10 protesters and told us
because why?
We are hitting that time period. I asked that you leave.
Right.
Why is there enough money for all of I don't know.
White supremacist fuck.
But you cannot have your signs inside.
I'm not going to throw it out.
Opportunity was given. You guys went inside. Now
The like level of over. I was saying
that. As we get older, a lot of times we feel certain doors closed to us. And what Purdue.
Yep. I can't believe they're doing that in front of an airport. Oh, jeez.
Allies. Is anybody else?
11 minutes on this one.
Where the happy patriots are, where you're the hero, because you're going to determine what direction America goes in the future and what MAGA will be doing. Because my audience, 100% MAGA. No conspiracy theorists, no anti-Trump weirdos, no anti-military weirdos. I'm here to inform. That's my special talent, I guess. Welcome to Nugget Exile. Okay, here's a huge win. The House passed the full DHS and ICE funding bill. Great job, Speaker Mike Johnson. 203 radical Democrats voted no. Here's the video. I'll show you also why this is considered dead on arrival, because now it goes to the Senate. There's the vote. Republicans.
On this vote, the yeas are 213 and the nays are 203. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Pursuant to the adoption of House Resolution 1142, the Senate amendment to H.R. 7147 is considered as agreed to, with an amendment consisting of the text of the Rules Committee Print 119-21.
Okay, so this would be a huge win if it was as simple as an up or down vote. Of course, it's very complicated because of our system of government. So yesterday morning, the Republican-led House narrowly passed its short-term funding bill for the entire Department of Homeland Security. This includes full funding for immigration and customs enforcement, that's ICE, the Customs and Border Protection at current levels through just May 22nd. That's 2 months. This came after the Senate unanimously passed a different deal earlier that day, yesterday morning, funding most of DHS except for ICE. That's what everyone thought was a big deal. And Mike Johnson said, that's not what Trump wants. And they also didn't support Border Patrol. To address the ongoing partial shutdown, the TSA pay, airport delays, et cetera, the House GOP leaders called the Senate version a joke and rejected it. The House bill now heads to the Senate, however. It's widely seen as dead on arrival there. The Senate is in recess for 2 weeks. The Democrats have repeatedly said they will block any measure that funds ICE without constraints on enforcement, operations. The shutdown's likely to continue for now. This is all part of the larger appropriations fight over DHS funding and dragged on early this year. So the government remains shut down because Democrats will not fund ICE and Border Patrol. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson just on a complete tear. I've never seen him this angry, and I'm happy to see him angry. He unleashed on Chuck Schumer for prioritizing criminal illegal aliens over Americans. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat below. Do you support Speaker Mike Johnson's anger here?
Chuck Schumer always plays political games. It is shameful, and he is shameless about it. People are getting killed. We had an innocent 18-year-old college young lady in Chicago get shot in the back by a dangerous criminal illegal alien. We had an 83-year-old veteran pushed onto the tracks of a subway train and run over and murdered by a dangerous criminal illegal alien. They have allowed this, and their votes on the floor are going to show you one more time what they're for. They want that to continue. We have to fund these agencies of government. That's what our CR is going to do.
That's what their CR, that is continued resolution, is going to do. And I fully support Mike Johnson. I like him getting angry. I like him holding out. They're willing to shut the government down if it doesn't fund TSA, ICE, all of it. Border Patrol agents, they want the whole taco. And again, this is only for 2 months, guys. So lots has to be done. I'm going to give you more details on this in just a second. First, a word from our sponsor, Chapter. Some of you have asked about that phone number, and I'm telling you guys, call on Thune and Mike Johnson. This is on the GOP shutdown. GOP divisions on display. I'm just going to give you guys the difference between these two by reading this article at The Hill. GOP divisions on display as Johnson rejects the Thune-backed Senate Department of Homeland Security deal. So Thune is doing much more of what the Democrats want, and Speaker Mike Johnson is a true Trumper, true patriot. There's people that say he's a rhino. Absolutely wrong. The move by Speaker Mike Johnson and House GOP leaders to forcefully reject a Senate deal to fund the bulk of Department of Homeland Security that was backed by Senate Majority Leader John Thune is putting Republican division on display. Johnson on Friday showed rare anger as he slammed the Senate deal, which the chamber passed by unanimous consent in the wee hours of Friday morning, with only a few senators on the floor before breaking for a 2-week recess. So John Thune, they do the vote. He knows it wasn't adequate, and he skips town. I think that's pretty scummy to do the American people and our Border Patrol and a DHS and ICE. The deal set up a 2-step process that would have immediately funded the Transportation Security Information, TSA, and Federal Emergency Management Agency, the FMA, and the U.S. Coast Guard, but required Republicans to fund immigrations and customs enforcement, that is ICE, and border enforcement operations at a later date. And what are the chances of us getting that?
No.
Quote, this gambit that was done last night is a joke, Johnson said. That is what Thune did was a joke. Thune is a joke. I hate to say it. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every state Republican read the language of this bill. So now you have Republicans voting on stuff under Thune that didn't even read it. The division in one sense, was an example of the classic tension between the House and the Senate. So this is the big picture stuff that I like learning about, the basics of what's the difference between the House and the Senate, neither of which wants to get jammed by the other chamber because they both have to approve each other's bills. But it also put a spotlight on the GOP leaders being out of sync, even as they will have to work together to muscle any shutdown solution through their respective chambers. So they're both got very narrow advantages. Ask about whether he was on the same page with Thune. Johnson downplayed his counterpart's responsibility for the deal, even though it was Thune's responsibility. He says, I wouldn't call Thune the engineer of this, Johnson said, and that's him being a politician. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. Yet it is Thune who controls the Senate floor. Good point, The Hill, and who sponsored the amendment to the DHS funding bill that omitted ICE and Border Patrol funding. That alone puts Thune on my bad list. You get a coal in your stocking this year for Christmas, son. You're in the wrong party. And by the way, give up leadership because you're no leader. A split similar to what Democrats have pitched for weeks as they refuse to fund immigration enforcement unless they get significant reforms. Thune told reporters he went with the strategy after Democrats rejected the Senate's GOP last and final offer for ICE reforms, calling it unfortunate. Wait, there's more. Here's Rep. Brandon Gill on how we're trying to secure secretly billions to fund ICE.
This is probably one of the smartest things Republicans have done in a long time. Is that whenever we passed the tax bill last summer, the working families tax cut, the reconciliation bill, we funded ICE through reconciliation. We gave them what amounts to be almost just short of $20 billion a year. So their operations are funded for the next several years now.
And Democrats know this.
And Democrats know this. they know that happened. That's just an objective fact. But what they want to do is we would like to give them more funding through this DHS bill. And I think that's important. There's nothing more important right now than deporting illegal aliens. But what they really want to do is tie ICE's hands and stop the president from create a whole bunch of restrictions around how they can operate operationally that'll essentially hamstring them.
Okay, so ICE is funded. So you go, what's the big deal? The Democrats won't pass these continued resolutions bill unless they hamstring ICE, unless they do things like demand a court order but for them to even approach an illegal alien and stuff like that would just utterly make them worthless. So that's really what Mike Johnson is holding out on. And that's what John Thune keeps throwing under the bus because he's an idiot of some kind. Here's Jonathan Turley. Eric Swalwell is the latest Democrat to confirm that the shutdown is about defunding and eliminating ICE. Quote, I don't want to fund ICE. I want to abolish them, unquote, says Swalwell, who went to bed with a Chinese spy. This follows his pledge to arrest ICE. He has said he will arrest them, take away their licenses, and bar them from jobs in the private sector. They're starting to put the pressure on them in the private sector. Meanwhile, at our airports, here's our final shot. This is backup security lines wrapping around Thurgood Marshall Airport as the Dem shutdown breaks out. These are people Congress is supposed to be serving. They're using the people instead of serving them.
This line is going all the way down the sidewalk outside of the terminal. And for anyone who's flown in and out of BWI, when you get inside that door, it is a long walk all the way to the actual TSA security.
That's in Baltimore. Democrats, you voted for this, you idiots. Never put her next to a Democrat. That's how we say it here in exile. I'm Doug, and I thank you guys for watching. More videos.
Okay, so the big video coming up here, you guys. That's why we're probably going. It's the weekend now. I'll be watching the game at night, but we got to get a lot of stuff out. So we got a 2.5 hour video from that one guy. What's his name on Rumble? We're gonna do this, then take a couple hour break, and come back tonight, probably 6 o'clock. God dang it. Okay, fire. Let you guys know what I think about this big video here.
March 25th, 2026. Welcome back to the Global Defense War monthly panel. I am John Michael Chambers. We will cover from a military perspective just what is going on behind the scenes in this global defense war. Let's put up this image, a quick announcement, very important before we get into the crux of the show here. Rob Cunningham, who's actually joining us on the panel first time, we're honored to have Rob here. Rob is going to be joining us April 30th in the all-new Patriot Q&A Power Hour, Thursday, April 30th, strictly to answer your questions live in our private room for 1 hour. Learn more about this by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. Free subscription or the premium portal if you'd like to join Rob Cunningham and I to answer your questions. Now, before we begin, I will set the stage for this panel discussion with a brief monologue. Patriots, the veil is tearing wide open right now in 2026, and what the world is about to absorb will confirm everything we've been fighting for since this Great Awakening began. The deep state cabal thought they could silence the truth forever, but military intelligence has been one step ahead all along. President Donald Trump has been orchestrating the biggest sting operation in human history from the shadows, and the pieces are slamming into place right now this year. Forget the fake news. Forget their lies about democracy's dying. That's their panic talking as the noose tightens. Mass arrests are already underway behind the scenes. High-level politicians, Hollywood elites, big pharma criminals, and the pedophile networks that ran the world for decades, if not centuries, are being rounded up in black site operations you won't see on CNN. Gitmo tribunals are running 24/7, and the executions have started, sealed indictments unsealed by the thousands. The storm isn't coming. It's here. This is it, and it is biblical. The global reset they plan, the one with digital IDs and social credit scores and total control in 15-minute cities and you shall eat the bugs and all of this stuff has been flipped on its head. White hats in the military, partnered with President Trump's loyal generals, have seized control over the financial system. The old fiat dollar is dying, and the new quantum financial system backed by gold and assets is beginning to roll out. Your money in the bank, it's about to be replaced with something they can't steal, corrupt, or inflate away. The Sara Jasara isn't a theory anymore. It's being activated piece by piece as we speak. 2026 is the year of reckoning. This Great Awakening is no longer a fringe phenomenon. It is mainstream. Every day, millions of people are being shaken awake, while suppressed technologies like free energy and medbeds are coming to the surface. The satanic elite, which ruled through fear and blackmail, is finished. Their underground bases cleared out by special forces. Their occult rituals exposed and ended. This isn't hopium, folks. This is happening. It's happening now. The end of their world is the beginning of ours. So stay strong, stay focused, stay loyal, stay vigilant. Where we go one, we go all isn't a slogan. It's something to be practiced. The best is yet to come. There's no question about it. We're all waiting on July 4th and beyond. And all of these good things are arriving here in 2026. All right, let's bring on our panel. And I just want to say this, you folks that wait all month for this program, I know you know this, but those newly coming aboard, this is an elite group of esteemed guests. These are military men serving in very high positions for many, many years. You're getting high quality analysis, high quality information and education, making sense of the madness and dismantling the deceptions. Having said that, former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi served 24 years in the Australian Army. He's the national leader of Australia One Party. Be sure to tune into Bossi Briefs, dedicated show. We're in our second year now, which publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Joining us, of course, also is, I've got the wrong information in front of me. My apologies. Is, of course, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Now, you can find his biography by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com, hit contributors, and learn all about his service to this.
For athletes, dancers, everything you do has to be perfect.
Oh!
On our way to Aussie. Oi. My guy goes, come on, get up. We gotta do this.
Nation, it is extraordinary. I don't have those bites before me. My apologies. Michael Jaco, a retired veteran Navy SEAL, dedicated a total of 35 years serving the U.S. government in high-risk environments. Also has, as you well know, a very popular podcast, Michael Jaco. All right, we also have joining us for the first time, welcome here, sir. Rob Cunningham joins me somewhat regularly as a guest on the Global Financial Reset. Extraordinary powerhouse of information. United States Air Force active duty as an instructor pilot with combat experience and top secret security clearance. And also joining us, of course, the gentleman who helped me put the concept of this global defense war show together almost 2 years ago, and helped me introduce me to a lot of these guests, is our good friend, retired Army Derek Johnson, an expert on tabulating and covering the Commander-in-Chief, President Donald J. Trump's laws and orders and current events. All right, please visit, again, jmcbroadcasting.com. Hit contributors tab up top on the navigation bar. You'll see all these gentlemen and other contributors, their photographs, their biographies, and a link so you can continue to follow their work beyond this broadcast. Having said that, welcome, gentlemen. There's a lot going on. Thank you all for being here. To our producer, let's get them on screen. There we go. All right. Thank you very much. We have somebody missing. Colonel Lennox seems to have lost a video. Michael, I'm sure you're working on. There he is. He's back. Didn't want to move forward without you, sir. Thanks for being here. A couple of bumps in my monologue, but hopefully the message got through. Here we are, gentlemen. I salute you right out of the gate. Thank you for being here. And off the heels of that monologue, hopefully you listen to it because I'm going to ask some questions about it. Off the heels of that monologue, describe for us, we'll begin, of course, with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi of Australia. Off the heels of that monologue, describe for us where you see us at. It's kind of a big question. Take your time, if you will. Paint the picture for our viewers. Where are we presently at in this war? And highlight any key fronts you choose, and also what you anticipate to occur before the end of this year. So where are we at? In other words, where have we come? Where are we today? And where do you see as some focal point highlights transpiring over the rest of this year? Ricardo Bossi, sir.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having us. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Absolute pleasure to be with you all. Okay, very quickly. What a lot of people are having difficulty with is following the cascading activities around the planet at the tactical level, operational level, campaign level, and strategic level, and even the grand strategy. And people are having difficulty putting the picture together. That's by design. We know that. That's, of course, the reason. But where we're at right now, And if you could put a title, I guess, on this phase of the operation, this is for the people. And the title would be this: The Price of Failure to Act. The price of failure to act. And the reason I say that is because the people, it's already started now. The alleged reason is the Straits of Hormuz and the blockage, and then the interference with the flow of oil. Therefore, the prices have spiked, and we'll talk in detail later. But that is the supposed trigger to all the drama that's going on right now, but that's not it at all. This is the price of the failure to act. All the things that are going on around the planet, and they can be related to Hormuz, they could be related, completely unrelated to Hormuz. But this is what the people now have to experience for not holding their people to their representatives to account, for not keeping an eye on what was going on, for trusting too many people for too long without sticking their nose into somebody else's business and saying, hang on a minute, you didn't promise me this, you didn't promise me that, and why are you delivering it to it? So this is the moment in history where the Australian people, because I can tell you that from personal experience, it's hurting down here, but it's also hurting around the world. And the people are going to start to feel the squeeze. It's going to be painful. It's going to be excruciating. They're going to get very, very angry. And I'm not hoping for this, but I can imagine there's going to be some violence occur. Sporadic, not necessarily organized, but sporadic, geographically dispersed. That people are eventually going to realize what's happened to them, what's been done to them. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we've been saying this for so many years now. If we don't stand up, it'll be taken from us. We didn't stand up. It has been taken from us. Everything's been taken from us. And the people are about to find that out. Now, this is the key moment for this operation as far as the people are concerned. None of this would have happened had the people stood up, but they didn't. And there's a lot of many reasons for that. They've been demoralized. They've been brainwashed. They've been MK Ultra. They've been poisoned. They've been gassed. You name it, everything. They've been dumbed down. They've been irradiated with 5G. They've been injected with the COVID nonsense. And there's a million reasons why it occurred. But at every point, the people failed to stand up and claim this sovereignty they claim they have, to say, this is my country. I am the source of law. What I say goes. But as we know, if you throw something out in the trash, anybody can come and collect that trash and take it away. That's evidence that you're not interested. And the sad reality is most of the planet, and some are more culpable than others because they don't have a history of personal sovereignty or the rights coming from the people. But those nations that do, we should have stood up and we didn't. And now we're going to feel the pain. There's nothing that can stop what's coming. We've been saying that a long time. We've been warning about for a long time, many years now. Get some gas in your garage, get some tin food, get some cash, buy your precious metals, and get ready to hunker down. For how long? We don't know. All we know is that if it goes for too long, the black hats win, so the white hats won't let it go too long. But the pain you're about to feel, and don't shoot me, I'm just a piano player. The pain we're all about to feel is a result of our complacency, our docility, our imbecility, all of those things. It's on us. We're going to have to pay the price.
Tough love and honest words from Ricardo Bossi. Thank you, sir. Two quick comments. We'll take that same question around the panel. One is, you use the term NDE, a near-death experience. That hasn't even arrived, but you're getting a drip of it. Those that are having difficult time getting gasoline, for example, and prices going up, and some of the things you've indicated. And my last follow-up is saving America and redirecting humanity on this course correction is not a spectator sport. So thank you, sir. Same question to retired Colonel Tom Lennox. If you'd like to weigh in on where we're presently at and what you see on the forefront the rest of this year.
I see that there's a wide divergence in reaction of people. We're still probably at 20% really know what's going on. 80%, some know something, some know very little, some know nothing. And I'm going to say it is 20% know nothing. And that's my guess But what's going to happen at some point before July 4th, I believe we'll have an EBS. And the EBS will be a near-death experience for a lot of people. A lot of people. And it's just there. We know a lot, but I would venture to guess we only know 75% of what's really going on, maybe 70%. And so when we look at it, we have to understand that for us, there'll be shocks. And for the people that are not aware, there'll be big shocks. And I think things like Iran and Israel and all that that's in the media, they get upset about it, but, oh, that's far away. That's no problem. We don't need to worry about that. It's when they learn about the babies and they learn about the selling of the children and they learn about the dumbs under the ground and they learn about the Hillary Clintons having 149 people she had killed that we know about. And they find out that their favorite people were absolute 100% criminals. 60 senators took money from Venezuela. That's huge. And all the money that was ripped off, I'm going to say, along the way, you send $1 billion to the Ukraine and 800 million of it goes back to some congressmen and senators and all of that. When they learn all of that, they will have, in my estimation, some level of collapse. And then their money goes away for a short period of time, but it's going to go away. The bank account's zero. All of those things are going to happen. And they're not too far away. I think they'll happen sometime before May 17th. And the reason I say May 17th is that's when Trump is going to do the prayer that simulates the one that George Washington did on May 17th of 1776. And that's my summary, I guess.
Well, thank you. There's a common theme here, folks. I'll think of 3 Ps: pray, plan, and prepare is on the docket. Thank you, sir. Same question to Michael Jaco, sir.
Yeah, I think we're going to see probably boots on the ground here pretty soon in Iran. We just sent 82nd Airborne. Looks like they're going over there as well. So we have 2 different MU groups going there, Marine Expeditionary Units that are headed there. Probably one's already there now. The other one will be there in 2-3 weeks. Now, a lot of people think that, in the past, we get bogged down. We don't get bogged down, speaking from all of us here. We don't get bogged down. It's the administration, the deep state that bogs us down. We don't have that now. So this is the difference that's going to happen with this war or this conflict. We're going to move very quickly into, taking down this enemy in Iran. So that's coming. We're going to see probably within a year, because every time we've had a spike in oil, within a year we have a collapse in the stock market. Silver prices accelerate to a very high level, and gold follows after that. So we'll see that happen. There's a lot of great things that are coming. I think we're going to start to see the rest that we've been waiting for. We're going to see, the 2020 election still, the problems with our election system. And this is going to translate all across the world, where we're going to see, multiple countries throughout the world get exposure for their election fraud as well. People that have been in office for a very long time, throughout several decades, we're going to find out that they need to stand justice as well. So not just the ones that are there now, but for several, maybe even decades going back, we're going to find that some people are going to get arrested. Of course, the same thing with the medical fraud that happened with us. with the COVID. That's going to come down on people. That's already starting to happen here in the United States on a massive level. Several states are voting to make mRNA shots illegal and a terrorist act. If any group or any company or any individual tries to administer an mRNA shot, so that's going to translate into all the companies, all of the individuals that push that on a very great level have to stand justice. So, Guantanamo is going to be filled. We're probably going to see other places that are going to be filled because it's an extreme number of people that have, perpetrated fraud on the American people and the people of the world. So great things are coming, but we're probably going to have some problems. The State Department just put out that around the world, the government of Iran has sent sleeper cells around the world, and they're possibly and probably going to start to strike American citizens, not only here in our country, but around the world. Like Colonel Bosey was saying, Lieutenant Colonel Bosey was saying, there's going to be pain. There's going to be some pain in the future. We have brought this on ourselves. We allow these people to come in and get control. We haven't managed it like we should. We, the people, it's our countries, it's our governments, and we allowed very, very evil psychopaths to come in and take over. So we're going to have to clean that up, and it's going to be painful because they're going to resist, and they're going to send their minions out to fight us. And so we're going to have to stand up to them, not just around the world, but also in our countries. So our countries will see probably violent action as well. All of us have been talking about this coming in the near future. I think it's right on the doorstep. I have friends throughout the military still that tell me that bases are being locked down. There's very heavy threats on our military installations in the United States. We've seen a little bit of that leak out into the press, but those bases have locked down quite severely. So a lot of pain coming, but on the other side of this, probably jubilee, debt forgiveness, a lot of money that's been through bonds and so forth. All of us have bonds throughout the world on us. Everything we do, we're bonded. It's totally illegal. The money from a lot of that is going to come back to us. So a lot of people that are living in poverty and despair and so forth will probably get some help going forward. You have to live through the coming wave of violence and problems. So also all of us have been saying, make sure you're stocked up with provisions to get you through the tough times. But on the other side of this is a golden age that's beyond belief.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, I think it was a Clint Eastwood movie. Derek would know better. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is what comes to mind here. That's what's in store for the rest of this year. Thank you, Michael, and important information about retaliation. These are the final battles. Incredible operation that's taking place. Same question to Rob Cunningham, sir. Welcome to the panels.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It's quite an honor. The theme that I've focused on radically escalating here in the last few months is, the verse that the power of death and life is in the tongue. God spoke this world into existence, and we've been hypnotized into existence with lies, with not knowing who we are, whose we are. We don't have hard values that we believe in. So if we can be told anything and we don't know how to defend it because it's not politically correct to let your yeses be yes and your no's be no's, they lie to us, they indoctrinate us, they MK Ultra us, they politically correct, threaten to separate us with name calling or just basically divide and conquer. It's an age-old battle, and we are all, as civilians and military, on a battlefield that most have slowly over time been inadequately prepared to even understand when we're being lied to. If you don't know what your rights are, you don't have any. And slowly over time, the bread and circuses, the fun, the money, the the football, all of the stuff that we've done, the school, the college, the debt, the money system, the food-like substances that don't have a damn ounce of nutrients in them, they've slowly made us stupid. Now, unfortunately, we had to consent. We are guilty. We are parties of this, if you will, slumber party. And to think about it, if there are principalities of darkness that would like to kick our ass, it's probably a lot easier to put us to sleep first and then have their way with us, because they're now starting to see what it looks like when the world begins to awaken. And I look at what's happened in just the last few months, and you look at what President Trump has done and his team have done in Venezuela, in Mexico, in Cuba, in Iran twice, what they're doing in the Hormuz Strait, what they're doing with Israel, what they're doing in Ukraine, what they're doing. They found, I think, 32 out of 44 of the private banks in Iraq had been infiltrated and controlled by Iran. We've exposed that our special relationship British partners are not special relationship partners or friends or allies. The very first thing we did when we went to Iran was they ordered Lloyd's of London to jack up the insurance, cancel insurance premiums in the hopes that oil prices would spike all over the world and it would create political instability and chaos so they could maintain their control monopoly. So we've seen Russia decide they're going to leave BRICS and embrace the new U.S. Treasury dollar system. So if Russia leaves the BRICS, that whole system goes away. China is now begging for oil because their oil providers in the Hormuz Strait, in Venezuela, in Mexico, and Iran can no longer provide them the oil they need. So what we're seeing is this octopus with, and I call the City of London, the money changers that have been doing central banking since 1694, and their tentacles, they finance central banks. They finance this big boogie proxy man known as Iran. For 40 years, the world has been told they're 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb. We should all live in fear. They've had missiles pointed at 11 Middle Eastern countries, and we're all just supposed to endlessly fund Middle East wars and write checks to Israel and watch those Strait of Hormuz be this tiny little choke point node for so much of the world's energy, and we've been held hostage through this centralized financing source. I mean, here we are owing $39 trillion to a 1 square mile area on the Thames River, known as the City of London. It doesn't produce anything, hire anything, manufacture anything, invent anything, grow anything, and distribute anything. All this little 1 square mile territory does is manipulate capital markets and foreign exchange rates, create financial fiction the world over through their fractional reserve banking system, buy off governments, buy off politicians, buy off industries, buy off religions, put us to sleep. But the good news is they now see exactly what Commander-in-Chief President Trump is doing. He's cutting off every one of the octopus's arms. He sees how he's opening up the oil and energy and money arteries or capillaries so money and value and freedom can flow in a distributed, decentralized manner instead of being controlled by a bunch of freaks in the City of London and their franchises in the Federal Reserve and wherever else they have their little monopolistic money system. Well, that goes back to you can't serve two masters. We've been unfortunately unaware of the master that we've been serving. And thank God President Trump is cutting those arteries ending their fake fiat monetary system and systematically going about the process of waking 7 or 8 billion people up so that we can start reintroducing ourselves to who we are and whose we are instead of just being mindless slaves. So I'm just honored that I'm on a panel with a bunch of men like you that can help to wake up the rest of the population as powerfully as we possibly can, because we have to wake up or we don't win.
Great analysis. Thank you, sir. You know, going back to what you first opened up with and addressing it to our audience, you are on a battlefield. Doesn't matter if you're serving in the armed forces. Every one of us are physically on the battlefield, and we are the target. So thank you for reminding us of that, and great analysis. Derek Johnson, you've been patiently waiting. How would you like to respond to this?
Well, first and foremost, it is an honor to be here, as always, and an honor to be with Rob. I think he probably is a friend of my manager's. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure that's the same Rob. So it's good to be here with all of you. And I know Jaco's over there probably laughing because, you know, I'm having to wait now to be the full last to talk so we can have some fun with this. So, you know, I'm going to rattle off now. But there's two things that, you know, to remind people out there in the audience world, whether you're a patriot, Republican, conservative, independent, whatever you are, if you just woke up, you've been away, whatever you think you are, there's two things that they're still playing to you. The things you got to see for the target audience that has no idea that Lieutenant Colonel Lennox was talking about, whether they know a little bit of something or nothing at all, whatever that is, they got to see this play out. To the patriots, you have to see it in another manner, but also understand that I use 3 P's in all of my podcasts: principles, priorities, and prevention. It's easy to look back on the past and judge the past, always. But if you don't sharpen your skills and elevate your skills and your thinking, we cannot prevent the swamp from growing back. You have to, that's where everybody's responsibility comes in. And that's what other people talking about the local action and things. You got to know the laws and the orders, though, because if you don't know your rights, if you don't know the laws, then they're going to be abused always. So if you know the law more than the lawyer does, it don't mean you got to practice the law, just to read and know and study the law. But if you read and study and know the law, then the one that is doing the practice for you, if they get out of line, you can say, look, I don't want your job, but I actually know that what you're doing is fraudulent, or you're cutting corners here, whatever it may be. So that's where your role comes in. And then also keep in mind, everything that President Trump has set up is to the T. Every T dotted, every T crossed, every I dotted, everything to the T of a military government, all right, by law. Now, this goes to the Law of War Manual, where it talks about the undesirability. Every single one of these men on this panel that you see right here, they've done their service. Now, I know every one of them will suit up again if we absolutely had to get into an actual suit again and go out there. We would, they would, but every one of these men are taking time out of their life, all right, to deliver to you their experience, a lot more than my experience inside the military, active duty, all right? But every bit of this is a military government. And in the Law of War Manual, where it talks about undesirability, it means that we came to a crossroads, as Elon said not terribly long ago. We came to a crossroads in civilization where we had to go, okay, do we keep going down this route? Because a lot of people have no idea how close we were to capsizing in a complete world level eruption of everything because of these elites. They're so dumb. It's like President Trump calls two things. He says some of them are stupid and just low IQ, but some of them are stupid and evil. So you can still be intelligent, brilliant, and smart, but still be evil. So there's two different people that we've been also fighting on that external factor and internal factor out there that do the evil. So there's two different entities. So what I find is right now, people are still not listening to the commander. All right. You're not listening to him. You might be hearing, but you're not listening. And you got to pay attention to detail. And there's one thing that any of these leaders right here were in the military that told all of us lower enlisted and lower officers out there is you pay attention to detail. Pay attention to detail. Every little detail matters. All right. And that's where you learn who is and who isn't, especially even in the military. Who knows the laws? Who knows the orders? Who knows the regulations? Who knows the directives? Who knows the instructions? Who knows the manuals? Who's been reading the manuals? Who's been reading the publications? So you're finding out who is and who isn't. So right now, every one of you are finding out what influencers out there who are and who isn't, who are in their intent and motives or some other thing. And you're also finding out who actually knows what the heck is going on. So the undesirability means that none of us wanted to be here either, but we know what's going on. We also know what it takes to win this thing. We are winning this thing. It's already been done, but the reason why we have to say some things that it's not done is your job and role and responsibility and duties are not to sit on your thumb and not prepare for the future. You need to be in the mindset of what Native Americans do, is what my people do, is you live your life right now for 7 generations out. And if the next generation does that, then guess what? Will be off the chain. Now, the other thing, this is not a war by standards with Iran. The war is the military government and the undesirability to have to do it. That is the war. That is the shell that President Trump and the military, the generals, the admirals have set up. It's a military government. By law, it's a military government. You can read everywhere. Also, what President Trump has done, there's no way he walked in all these nations and got done what he's done. All these capitulations took place from 2017 to 2019. Every bit of these nations working with us, with Iran, took place back here 2017 to 2019. Some new nations that came on board and became a part of the Abraham Accords. Every bit of these are in the National Defense Authorization Acts from 22 to 24. How did they already know to put in the NDAAs what was going to happen the next year? Every one of the year before, so the year before NDAAs, the year of what they were going to be operating the next year, it's already written over here what's happening over here, which means it's strategic. Congress knows about it because they're in a continuity government. The law shows that Congress is still, to this day, in a partial continuity government. And President Trump has validated this. He's validated it over and over. Today in yesterday, it's already a new day, but in Memphis, Tennessee, he validated. He said what they're calling a war, it's a military operation. So he validated this whole operation with law war manual terms. He uses occupied territory, white flag of surrender, restoration. All of those are in the law war manual under military occupation. The term restoration is directly related to a military government. And then also in the military government, you've seen things like your validities, the 1798 Aliens Act, your First and Fifth Amendments are gone when that is invoked, when it is in action. Well, what does military government say about that? Military government specifically outlines that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are suspended during a time of war of such nature when you have the validities of that. So all these influencers also are captured, like X is captured. Recently, you've seen Palantir be announced to be the new app for AI for the military. All right, all these rhinos and never Trumpers surface and they're going crazy. They have our information. I'm like, did you not read the article? The article says they're compiling data from existing databases. They already had your information. And Palantir started working with the military in 2011. So see, people prove that they don't read, you don't study. And I say it, I know it sounds bad sometimes, but I say it as lighthearted as possible. The better technology gets, the dumber Americans get. You have everything right in front of you. You have a computer daily. You have a phone in your hand all the time, which is no longer a phone anymore. It's a miniature computer because you have Google access daily. You have everything you need. You're just looking for truth in all the wrong places, kind of like a new version of the country song. You're looking for truth in all the wrong places and all the wrong faces. If you want to know what's going on, you got to know who's in command. And in military government, it talks about this in our military government and martial law proper, and also a thing called military law and precedents who are all written by colonels, generals, etc. In there, it says you got to know who's in command and what are they using in law. Every bit of President Trump's laws in vote outlines this. Now look at this. I just was talking to a friend right before the panel tonight, and I was telling people, I said, I've forgotten more than some people know. And then I said something on the phone that made me think, you know what, the next panel that we have a talk about this, and lo and behold, we're talking about it. I'm going to bring this back up. They had to show to the people out there that a war started in Israel with a music festival with these kamikaze pilots, right? Because people have to have drama in order to get them engaged, which is pathetic to all of us with intellect. But President Trump said, you got to give the people what they want. People love drama, so they got to have it dealt out that way. Well, on October 7th, 2023, and we have sir here, Rob here, who was a pilot. In 2023, in 1 week's time, ladies and gentlemen, my friend Siggy Flicker, she loves it when I rattle off. In 1 week's time in Israel, these are the military aircraft that they displayed to you on live radar that anybody could get on if you know how to click on it and filter out to the military aircraft. In 1 week's time, you had Sweden, you had France, Germany, Belgium, Romania, you had the UAE, Nigeria, Algeria, New Zealand, Australia, Japan. You had also Argentina, Mexico, US, Canada. You had a lot of other nations sprinkled in there. You had Turkey, different in 1 week's time. And then the kicker, they were telling all the target audience out there that Russia and Ukraine were in a heated war and all this other stuff. So I guess Ukraine and Russia just had a chance to go, you know what? We hate each other and the world thinks we hate each other. We're in a war, but we're going to pause because there's a humanitarian effort going on down here in Israel. Russia and Ukraine aircrafts were in Israel with all those other aircrafts. It's a world operation. So there's two things, what you got to see and what you don't know, or what you can know. And then when you see it, you're going to realize, wait, this is a world operation. It's biblical, historical, monumental. But where you can't sit on your thumb is knowing that, okay, yeah, we're taking care of it. You can't be in a demand position to the command going, get it done. Why is it taking so long? And all these other things. You need to realize that, like these gentlemen said, great points, that, look, you're the beneficiary of sitting on your thumb, not knowing the three branches of government. You've heard me on my podcast talk about it. 68% of 350 million people, if you walked up to them on the street, said, name the three branches of government. Don't tell me what they do. Don't tell me any names. Just simply name the three branches titles. People can't name them. So how can you demand to the command what you think you want, what you think you want to see? And personally, do I believe in justice? Absolutely. But it's an atrocity when we have people who can't even name the three branches of government, yet you want to see executions of people dying. There's something wrong with you on that level as well. Do you need to see justice? Sure. But the product of justice is the product of laziness and complacency of the things you're supposed to know to prevent the evil from ever having a chance to even grow in the ground, to even have a chance to be fertilized, to have a chance to grow, to have a chance to flourish.
Wow, thank you, Derek. A couple of quick takeaways, folks. It's a military government. You are on the battlefield. We, the people, are the target. Pay attention to detail. You're hearing but not listening. Some great takeaways. Thank you, Derek. The interest of our time, let's be brief on this next question because I've got some other things I know are on the minds of our viewers and I want to make sure we get to, including a trip to see Elvis Presley's home. We're going to talk about that later. But let's get into Iran for a moment here. And again, to the panel, let's be brief on this. We're going to move into another subject. There seemed to, back to Colonel Bosey, Lieutenant Colonel Bosey, there seems to be conflicting reports as to when Epic Fury will officially end. Michael Jacobs just revealed the information of more than likely boots on the ground. So there are conflicting reports. concerning the end of the operation. Okay, so that's part A of what I'm getting at. So please comment on that, as well as delving into the importance. We touched on it already, some of us. So again, we'll be brief. The importance of the Straits of Hormuz. Why is that area so important? What's being done there? How does that play out? And how long will Epic Fury go on?
Epic Fury started before we heard Epic Fury started. It will continue beyond when we are told Epic Fury ends, because nobody's going to get the whole picture. And just so we understand that, there are objectives to be achieved post the stated reason for the conflict, and that will continue. And boots on the ground in this case, just so to calm people's spirits. This is not Iraq 2.0, nothing like it, not even close. We're not talking regime change, we're talking leadership change. And there are multiple objectives that are unseen apart from the obvious. So let's talk about the obvious. So that's Epic Fury. If they give you a date, it's not real. Don't believe it. It's still going on. But question number two, Straits of Hormuz, quick rundown. 20% of the world's seaborne oil goes through the strait. It represents something between 60 and 80% of the revenue, say, of Saudi and the UAE, which means they're terribly interested in the Straits of Hormuz. In fact, one of my first jobs when I hit the Middle East was to do some planning to prevent Iran from doing exactly what they're doing in terms of threatening the Straits. But that's the stated reason. Now, is it oil the only thing going through? Sorry, one more thing with the oil. If the oil remains cut off or is cut off, because it's still flowing, if it is cut off, then China, India, and the Japanese economies are hit dramatically. And that's going to have a cascading effect around the planet, because many countries around the planet, by design, are now reliant upon India, China, and Japan for things they should be doing themselves. So that's sort of an obvious reason. But beyond that, the Straits of Hormuz issue also speaks to the control of the City of London. As we know, it's been said before, Iran's been a proxy of the City of London. It's been allowed to exist because it is a very effective method of control for the City of London and the British Empire. Choke points generally are part of a naval strategy that was described by Alfred Thayer Mahan, a US naval captain, who described naval strategy much like Clausewitz did for land strategy. He did that 120 years ago. And it's still a key point, because what Mahan said was, don't have a navy and have it sail the ocean blue. Just find the choke points. You can control trade. You can control the passage of naval vessels. You control the planet. And that's another part to it. Then you've got, not only is oil being trafficked or being shipped through the straits, but also everything that you can think that should be nasty. At the least of these, which is the illegal oil and precious metal trade that goes through. And then it starts to descend into where. Child trafficking, human trafficking, adrenochrome trafficking, and it just continues. So it's not just oil. There's a whole, as I said, many sub-objectives to be achieved. And I'll stop here and let others have a shot, but I'll also say one more thing about Iran. Do you remember the story? And I'm asking this for a friend. Let's just put it that way. Do you remember the story? The tomb of Gilgamesh we went into Iraq allegedly because Saddam was a bad man, and yet one of the priority objectives were, and this might not be true, I don't know, was to recover the artifacts from the tomb of Gilgamesh. Well, there might just be, and I don't think I'm giving anything away here, there might just be, let's say, a satanic reason for getting into Iran and taking and clearing a few things out as a control center for not just oil, not just money and power, not just for choke points, but for some deeper need that needs to be taken out that we won't hear about for some time. So that's a quick rundown in answer to your question. I'll leave some space for the others.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll comment later. I've got something to say, but I'll get the panel in. Same question to Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. Straits of Hormuz, you want to break that down? And I guess we won't be asking when this operation will end. What a foolish question that is. And you won't get the answer, whether we know it or not. But anyway, take it on, sir, if you will, please.
Well, there's some interesting things about the Middle East. And I was reading a book today, written some time back, and it seems there are a large number of portals in the Middle East. And one of the things the Khazarians are looking for is to get to their portals so they can escape the United States and the world. And Iran has a number of portals, which goes outside of our normal discussion, but it goes to the idea that it's not just about here, it's about out there. The other thing is, because of the Khazarians, and we look at the city of London, the Rothschilds are in fact Khazarians. And they have controlled the finances for a large part of the world for hundreds of years. And closing them down in London, I saw something yesterday or day before, is that when you close down the Rothschilds in Iran, you're going to also close down the Rothschilds in Israel, which is the number one trafficker of humans in the world. And so when we start to look at what we're doing in Iran, we're really getting ready to close down Israel as well. The Strait of Hormuz is interesting because if we say it's 20% of the world's oil that moves across there, and then we look at what Trump has done in the United States, which has reopened our leadership as the largest oil producer in the world, China and Japan will be coming to the United States to buy all their oil. You see your smile. And because we control Venezuela, which is also a very, very large producer of oil, China will also go to Venezuela, but they'll be going through the United States to get it. So when we look at that concept, and then we start to look at the question that Ricardo asked about all of the artifacts. There are artifacts in Iran and in other places in the Middle East that those people who like to go dig for them have been forbidden to go dig for, because they reveal a lot about the ancient history of the world, the earth. I think that's enough.
Thank you very much. Wow. You know, it's interesting. Just a quick comment to our viewers. My line of questioning thus far has not included the word London or Israel yet. That's the names that keep coming up, does it not, when we discuss the operation? So that's very, very telling. And again, to Derek's point, you're hearing, but are you listening? Very, very good stuff. And I just quick comment on this. We won't go there today. The portals that you referred to, Lieutenant Colonel Lennox, and the galactic off-planet issues, the UFOs, the aliens, and all that. We're going to take that on a little deeper as our commander-in-chief and president starts to drip out those top secret files. Then we'll coattail along that, and we'll get into that. So come back and listen, because that day is coming. Same question to Michael Jaco. Straits of Hormuz. You know, if you want to break that, you covered it before, but break that down further if you wish.
Yeah. So the problems of the Middle East basically originate from Iran, and also all the way back to the city of London with the financing. So I spent over 30 years, 3 decades in the Middle East. Tier 1. SEAL Team 6, and also CIA high levels, running down terrorists and so forth. It was pretty much funded by Iran. So we have to take out Iran. So it's basically we've squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and now we're down to the last kernel of this compromised system of humanity, and we started to go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. I love that, but we can save that for another time. But Rothschilds are being their bank accounts are being seized in France right now. Now, just a few days ago, Le Pen won several elections in France. So conservative side finally overcoming 4 decades worth of communist rule that was started by the CIA, funded by the CIA throughout Europe, taking down politicians and so forth and inserting communist leadership, which basically is controlled by all the different intelligence agencies. And then, of course, further up the chain, where we start to get into those very dark forces that we kind of alluded to here in a couple of these gentlemen. Fantastic work. So also in Germany, overcoming massive fraud in the elections and good conservatives coming forth in Germany. So I think we're going to continue to see this wave of conservative, good people that are coming in to basically take down this evil. Rothschild, like we talk about, the financing, follow the money, the financing side of this, all the way back to the city of London. We're still at war. Revolutionary War never stopped. All right. So we're still in, if you will, a second Revolutionary War against the city of London, right? The British Empire, which is the city of London. So we have to take that down. We have to destroy that as well. I've talked about how, maybe we should just invade the city of London, but there's more, very subtle ways that Donald Trump is taking down the city of London. And I appreciate the way he's doing this. And that will preserve a lot of lives. It will also preserve a lot of territory that would otherwise be destroyed. You might think otherwise from what's going on in Iran right now with all the, over 8,000 missile strikes and bombs and so forth that we've hit, targets that we've hit in Iran at this point. Over 8,000, amazing. But these are precision strikes, and then eventually what we saw in Afghanistan and Iraq. Afghanistan, we just had a few horse soldiers that were calling in, strikes and basically took down the Taliban. In northern Iraq, we had, some Air Force CCT guys that came in and called in fire and basically devastated Saddam's military in the northern area. So we'll probably see the same thing in Iraq. I believe that we'll probably see boots on the ground in Iraq or in Iran. And if we don't, that's great. But, from my perspective, it looks like it's moving in that direction with all the forces that are going there. Why would we be sending 2 different MU groups there and 82nd Airborne, like we saw today, going into somewhere in the Middle East, probably Saudi Arabia, I would assume, and then launching from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia basically said, continue the war, President Trump. Israel said, continue the war, President Trump. So President Trump is like, we'll negotiate while our troops move into place, right? So that's, I think, where we're at.
Well, you said boots on the ground. You mean Iran, not Iraq, just for clarification, correct?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Iran. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you. And Michael, before we move on to Rob Cunningham, I want to, we've talked about before correcting George W. Bush on what the real axis of evil is, and of course it's London, the Vatican, and DC. But in terms of hierarchy of command and control on the 3 countries that have been themed out in this panel, would the proper order from bottom up be this? Would it be Iran to Israel,
59
Israel
into
to
it,
London?
so
Is that kind of the flow of it? In terms of the power would be mostly London, then
I don't know, you guys. You think we should stop? An hour is enough, I think. 2.5 hours is too long. We got an hour in. So we're going to continue to the 4 Yeah, well, I got a lot. I'll try to get the other stuff later. We got an hour and a half still left on that, but I have other stuff to share tonight. But we'll do the 4-hour mark here, so we still got time. We'll get some other stuff in here. Everybody liking it so far? Let's do this one. Oh, wrong one. Oh, I had something else in here. We'll get the shorts in here. You guys, yeah, if we get everybody back tonight, we'll play it. We'll see how things. This is kind of interesting photo shot here. Okay, let's do that Keith guy. I got 15. Well, 12 minutes.
We confronted the guy that you caught on tape, and we caught on tape the guy with the jewelry. I just want to play the clip, jewelry on his cheek. I just want to play this video from your report. This was Savannah Hernandez tape from Los Angeles, California, where he's given out, was it cigarettes? Just cue this up for the audience on what you exposed.
Oh, absolutely, James. So basically what we went out and uncovered was, of course, these petitioners going around and essentially bribing the homeless to sign petitions that would verifiably change California election law. Now, the individuals that we confronted were very violent, as you guys unfortunately experienced, but this is what we caught on camera. Check it out.
All right, so let's play the clip from Savannah confronting this guy, giving out consideration for signatures.
All right, y'all, this is Savannah Hernandez on Skid Row, and this man behind me was actually caught bribing homeless to sign petitions, which is illegal per California election law.
Did you want to sign up, sir? I don't know where this is. Free signatures. Did you get a cigarette? Sure. Perfect. Yes, of course, sir. Thank you. You're helping change California laws.
I actually have you on camera saying that
you have me on camera handing out cigarettes. Yeah.
Yes,
you
that
signed
is
the
illegal
petition.
per election
If you sign a cigarette.
California.
If you sign, you're gonna get something. You're not even reading a good investigative
Well,
journalism.
I'm actually trying to
You're
ask
not doing any investigative journalism. Get the out of here. You don't belong here.
They're doing that all day long. I watch them when they tell people that if they get, sign up, they'll give them X amount of money and all that stuff.
This is Savannah Hernandez in Los Angeles on Skid Row. Now, I have been a part of a multi-journalist investigation targeting alleged voter
Now let's go to the clip of the same dude, Savannah, that you caught on tape, was on a different tape. I think Cam got it. We got it on camera, also giving away drugs for votes. That's 202 SOT. Let's play that clip.
You guys got a light? Yes. Did you want to sign the petition? You get a free cigarette.
Oh, what is this?
Just stricter policies on Uber drivers for women sexual harassment. You get a free cigarette when you sign.
What kind? What kind?
USA Gold. That's what we got.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. What company or what work?
Now we've also got the same guy giving away weed for signatures on the California petitions. I mean, he's been caught so many times in broad daylight. Play that clip.
I don't have a California address. Why somebody want to get a free cigarette? What? Not a petition, get a free cigarette. One cigarette?
Well, I just need one signature right here and right here. You get 2 cigarettes.
But it wasn't just cash that we saw exchanged for signatures. We also saw the homeless being bribed with cigarettes and even drugs, marijuana, and all of that is considered valuable consideration. So, Savannah, did you see the tape of them assaulting Andrew, my producer, on Friday?
I did. And, it was so unfortunate to see that, but I also wasn't surprised in the slightest because of how aggressive these men were with the undercover journalist that I was working with. Honestly, James, I was nervous to go down there in Skid Row because we all know how dangerous that environment is. So we had a man go in as my undercover journalist to go do this. And I'm happy that we did because, as you guys saw, this guy was extremely aggressive and very, very violent.
And you were standing right there. We just saw you on camera right in front of that guy. You were standing. You had security with you?
I did have security with me, thanks to your team, James. And again, that's why everybody needs to be supporting James in the Citizen Justice League, because we are going out on the ground and doing this. And, you were talking about how people in the comments right now, James, are like, well, nobody's doing anything. Nobody's going to get arrested. But this is people doing something, us highlighting how this guy has been on the ground again and again and again. And more importantly, James, it just goes to show how blatant the criminal activity is in California, where you have the same guy who was confronted, caught on camera, exposed, still going and doing this every single day. And then these people getting violent because they feel so entitled to this criminal activity.
I mean, you're very brave for as a woman going there. I mean, we went there as a bunch of guys. I mean, you're standing right in front of this guy. Thank God this guy didn't attack you. If you could just stay on with us as we play the audience, as we show the audience what happened to us on Friday, where this guy that you just saw with the piercing in his face, we walked up to him. These are the attack clips from Friday. The OMG team went to Skid Row on Friday to interview this man with our microphone. Kind of a miracle we even found.
I did, okay. Sorry about that, you guys. We got a new Trish video. She just came out with one.
Ketamine doctor.
10 minutes.
I mean, this one you can't make up. I told you about this story earlier in the week. I said, you know what? She is, according to FEC records, spending $19,000 for quote unquote leadership training from a guy who specializes in ketamine treatments. And I said to you at the time, I'm like, this is wild. Someone's going to come forward with an ethics complaint against her. And sure enough, boom, presto. This story was on Monday. Here we are on Friday, and it's happening, okay? AOC's $19,000 leadership training payment to ketamine psychiatrist sparks NLPC ethics complaint. Yeah, because the campaign shouldn't be paying for that. I mean, that's your own business, all right? I don't know what you got going on there. But that's your own business, AOC. Even for the leadership training. I mean, come on, the leadership training, that's what she's calling it, leadership training. I think we need to do a little investigation into this one, guys. And that's exactly what the National Legal and Policy Center is demanding. They are prepping, as we speak, filing complaints for both the FEC Federal Elections Commission and the House Ethics Committee over Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's apparent misuse of campaign contributions for personal psychiatric treatment. How do you like that? You know, she's out there soliciting $10, $5, $20. Please give to me, AOC, and I'm going to champion you while I fly around in my private jet, complaining about capitalism. And while I go to see my very expensive Harvard-trained doctor who makes a whole living out of specializing in ketamine.
Next one is 4 minute a video.
I mean, the thing, like, do that on your own private time, right? With your own private money. I wouldn't be going and using the campaign funds for that one. If it's you that was treated, I mean, leadership training. What is that? Look at those numbers. I mean, nearly $19,000. She had $11,550 in March 2025, $2,800 in May 2025, another $4,375 in October 2025. Grand total $18,725. Nothing cheap about AOC. No way, Jose. Boy, the Fox team had just a field day with this one, laughing about it because, you know, Sandy, as she's known, likes to spend on some stuff that, like most of us, hopefully,
I go to
would not
3:30.
be
You
spending
guys.
on,
Go to 3:30.
let alone work money, campaign money. My gosh.
Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, or Sandy, as she's also known, reportedly spent close to $19,000 in campaign money on a psychiatrist who specializes in ketamine therapy. The expenses were marked as, quote, leadership training and consulting. It's unclear whether the session consisted of, what it consisted of, or who participated in it. AOC has proposed legislation in the past to make it easier to study magic mushrooms and other psychedelic drugs. Her campaign also heavily pushed to end the federal prohibition of marijuana in 2018.
Oh, yes.
And those are...
You know, she's actually been very, very out in front of trying to find all kinds of new solutions, whether it be the mushrooms or I guess the ketamine treatment, to help people struggling with anxiety and other mental health issues overcome that. Don't forget, she herself has said she has struggled with mental health issues, all related to her PTSD from, wait for it, January 6th. I mean, hey, why not get a little political dig in there while you're at it, right? You can tell the campaign people, well, I had to go and see the ketamine doctor because, you know, I'm still struggling with having gone through the J6 ordeal, right? What's poor girl like Sandy to do? They're gonna, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, guys, like just saying, this is not good for AOC. And I just can't believe she would be so stupid as to put something like this on the campaign. And here's the other thing, like, don't forget, they're talking about her as being a big leader in the Democrat Party and a possible contender for the presidency, right? Well, you don't think opposition research is going to have field day with this one all day long? I mean, they're just going to be running this news all over again and again and again and again. Because when push comes to shove, I don't care how like new age people are. And I don't want to like, let me be thoughtful about this. Apparently it's a treatment for some people who really, 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 really struggle. It's also a dangerous treatment, right? Because if misused, you saw what happened to Matthew Perry from Friends. But I want to be cautious and respectful if in fact people benefit from it, okay? You know, I have no intimate knowledge of this and I don't want to begrudge someone something that maybe works for them. But I am going to say this. If she's going to run for the presidency of the United States, I'd really like to know that my president is not going to see the ketamine doctor after hours, okay? Like, she should be secure enough, okay enough in her own mental health that she doesn't need to do that on the side. I don't think that's a lot to ask, right? I mean, I'm not saying you're going to be a teetotaler like Trump. It's nice, of course, but this is taking it to a whole other level. And then the campaign funds on top of it. But, you know, she's going through a lot of stress, for goodness sake. She's still reliving the PTSD from J6. And gosh, she must really be struggling this year. Because think about it. Donald Trump is back in the White House.
But we must remember, in a time such as this, we are not the crazy ones, New York City.
I might beg to differ with that one. I think you might be the crazy one. Who's going off, allegedly, to see a ketamine doctor? Ketamine. You guys were correcting my pronunciation on that the other day. I think the Fox anchor had it wrong, too. What can we say? Anyway, she's off seeing the ketamine doctor, but she's not crazy. No, nothing wrong with AOC. No, she's just a good old-fashioned socialist who goes around with her fancy bags and her fancy shoes and her fancy vacations and her fancy private jets because, you know, she travels with Bernie, and Bernie's already told us he can't possibly take commercial travel. No way. Like, he's He's the man. He's going to have his private jet. It's capitalism. Capitalism be damned. We're socialists in private jets, and we're going to make sure that all those people out there can keep on getting more and more wealth off the system, because that's how socialism works. Don't ever forget it. It's the people that don't work. It's the people that have a certain in, right? Go look at Cuba. Go look at Venezuela. Yeah, the people in charge make all kinds of money. They're living high and mighty. Look at Minnesota. Think about that, and think about what Mamdani wants to do to New York City, and he's got AOC right along for the ride doing a nice little commercial. I didn't realize she spoke any Spanish. I thought she didn't, but apparently she's been working on the accent in order to deliver this.
As CIO, I connected our teams through Jira AI-powered teamwork software.
3 minutes.
Hola.
Hola.
Mi español no es el mejor. No te preocupes, alcalde. Si su hijo o hija está cumpliendo.
Okay. If your son or daughter, I think she said under 4 years old, they qualify for our kindergarten program in New York. And guess what? It's all going to be free. It's free because, the socialists are back in charge. We got Mamdani who wants to take everything he can. In fact, on your way out, if you have net worth of $750,000, which would basically be if you have a walk-up in Queens that you own, that you've owned for 30 years, well, he's going to take half of it. Forget about leaving it to your kids. He wants half of it. He's got to pay for all that daycare to nowhere, right? We've been down that road before. We've seen it in Minnesota. Oh, Nick Shirley just showed us more out in California. We don't need any more of this, all while this woman wants to put us behind on technology, put us behind on our economy, put us behind with AI. Why? Because she's scared of it. It's probably giving her PTSD. She's got to go get more ketamine therapy for this stuff. Watch.
As far as AI, I do not regularly integrate it into my daily life, but I know many people do. I think our job tends to be a little bit more, for me, a lot of my job is quite writing based, and I like to do my own. Thank you.
Very old-fashioned.
I'm old-fashioned. Ellie.
Oh, real old-fashioned. I'm sorry. She's not that old-fashioned. She's going and hanging out with the ketamine doctor. I don't call that old-fashioned. I call that backward. You know what? She's backward. Remember when Amazon, Jeff Bezos was willing to come to her little town in Queens and give all kinds of jobs out, 6-figure jobs. And she's like, no, we don't want them because it's Amazon. It's like, lady, you don't want AI. You don't want to use AI because, oh, you're such a great writer yourself. Doubt it. I don't think she's very talented at anything, frankly. I can't believe she was an economics major. It's actually concerning. Very, very concerning. Boston University she attended. So cross that one off your list, right? Boston University, because I don't know how you graduate an economics major that winds up being a socialist like her, except that, you know what? It's really not socialism. It's really just pure, raw self-interest. That's all this is with any of them, from Mamdani to AOC to Ilhan Omar. It is pure, raw, disgusting self-interest.
Okay, that's her latest new one. Okay, we got a couple short ones here. Did you see this yet? Hey.
Right now, beneath the most powerful oil fields in America, the Texas Permian Basin is caving in, and a 200-foot sinkhole is actively expanding with no signs of stopping. This is not a pothole. This is routine ground settling after a heavy rain. The earth is collapsing from the inside out, swallowing land whole, cracking foundations, threatening pipelines that carry fuel to millions of Americans, and burying entire communities on top of what scientists are now calling a hollow, crumbling underground nightmare. And here is the part that should stop you cold. Nobody is talking about this. The oil companies drilled their wells, made their billions, and left. Thousands of abandoned wells, unplugged and forgotten, scattered across the Permian Basin like open wounds in the earth. And for decades, while nobody was watching, water has been silently eating through salt caverns that are 250 million year old, ancient underground formations that were the only thing holding the surface together. Now those caverns are collapsing, and the ground above them is going with it. Scientists have already identified over 50 active zones of underground deformation across the basin. 50 separate areas where the earth beneath your feet is no longer solid, and the sinkhole keeps growing. But this story gets stranger, because when researchers drilled into the collapsing salt beds to understand what was happening, they found something buried inside that nobody expected. Something ancient. Evidence of oceans that vanished 250 million years ago. Fossils of life forms that existed before the dinosaurs. A time capsule from a version of Earth so old it barely resembles the world we know, locked inside the very ground that is now tearing it apart. The Permian Basin sits at the center of America's energy economy. 40% of U.S. oil production comes from this land, and right now, that land is sinking. So here is the question nobody in the oil industry wants to answer. When the ground beneath America's most powerful oil field finally gives way, who is responsible for everything that falls with it? For decades, nobody looked down. The Permian Basin stretches across 86,000 square miles of West Texas and southeastern New Mexico, producing more oil than most countries on Earth. It is the financial engine of American energy. The land that built fortunes, powered cities, and kept gas prices from going even higher than they already are. To the outside world, the Permian Basin looks exactly like what it. The ground in West Texas is caving.
Okay, that was Texas news update. I guess I'm gonna say we'll do a half hour shorts, and then I'll try to get that rest of the hour and a half in. I'll probably come back at 6 if we do that. So that's gonna be an hour and a half. So we'll probably come back at 6, get 2-hour break here. And so yes, another big showdown, and then we'll get more tonight. So God bless everybody. Love all. Please hit the like and sub to the backup channels, please, and this description box. Thank you, and Lodge, Lucy, Kay, Party Go, Carol, Bim. Stay safe, stay strong, and keep the faith. Never give up. Signing off for show number 1. Chico and Dude. See you guys in a few.